What happens when a waitress sees death coming before a crime lord does? Nina Carter never wanted to be a hero. She just wanted to survive her shift, collect her tips, and go home. But the moment she spotted the fake bodyguard standing behind Victor Hale, one of the most dangerous men in the city, everything changed. A scribbled warning, a flash of steel, an explosion of violence that turned an ordinary Thursday night into a battlefield. By saving his life, she painted a target on her own back. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The dining room of Constellation smelled like money and danger in equal measure. Nina Carter moved between tables with the practiced invisibility of someone who'd learned early that being overlooked was safer than being seen. White tablecloths. Crystal that caught the light just right. Conversations conducted in voices low enough to matter. She'd been working here for 3 months, long enough to recognize the regulars, short enough that most of them still didn't know her name. She preferred it that way. Table 7 needs water, Marcus said as she passed the service station. He was new, eager in that way that would get beaten out of him soon enough. And the guy at 12 keeps looking at his watch like we're personally responsible for time moving too slow. Nina nodded, grabbing a pitcher. Table 7 was near the windows, where the city sprawled out below like something beautiful and broken. She'd grown up in the broken parts. The parts where streetlights stayed dark and police cruisers rolled past without stopping, windows up, eyes forward. That was a different life. She was trying very hard to keep it that way. She filled the glasses at table 7, a couple celebrating something, anniversary maybe, the woman's hand resting on the man's wrist like she was afraid he'd disappear, and turned back toward the kitchen. That's when she saw him. Victor Hale. Everyone knew who Victor Hale was, even if they pretended not to. He owned half the commercial real estate downtown, had his name on a museum wing through charity galas that raised 7 figures for children's hospitals. The newspapers loved him. The mayor took his calls. And if you grew up in certain neighborhoods, you knew the rest of the story, the parts that didn't make the society pages. He sat at table 15, the corner booth that offered clear sightlines to both entrances. 2 men flanked him, the kind who wore expensive suits like uniforms. Bodyguards. His dinner companion was a woman in her 50s, elegant, leaning forward as she spoke. Business, probably. Everything with Victor Hale was business. Nina had served him twice before. He tipped well, said please and thank you, never let his eyes linger anywhere they shouldn't. Polite. Almost boring if you didn't know better. She was turning away when something caught her eye. The bodyguard standing behind Victor's right shoulder wasn't moving right. It was subtle. The kind of thing you'd miss if you hadn't spent your childhood learning to read bodies the way other kids learn to read books. His weight was forward, not settled. His left hand, the one not visible to Victor, kept flexing, fingers spreading and contracting. And his eyes were wrong, too focused, too still. Nina's pulse kicked up. She'd seen that look before. In her stepfather's face, right before his fists started flying. In the eyes of the guy who'd cornered her in an alley when she was 16, before she'd put her keys between her knuckles and made him regret it. It was the look of someone about to do violence, working up the nerve, counting down to 0. The bodyguard's hand moved toward his jacket. Nina didn't think. Thinking took time she didn't have. She grabbed a straw wrapper from her apron, pulled out the pen she used for taking orders, and scrawled 4 words in letters too large to miss. Guard behind you. Run. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. Everything else was screaming, heart-hammering, breath shallow, every instinct telling her to walk away, to not get involved, to survive the way she'd always survived. She ignored all of it. Nina crossed the dining room like she belonged there, like this was just another part of the job. She reached table 15, leaned in close to Victor Hale, and placed the wrapper directly in front of him. "Sir," she said quietly, "you dropped this." Victor's eyes flicked to her face, then down to the wrapper. She saw the moment he read it, saw something shift behind his expression, not fear exactly, but calculation, recognition. He didn't look at this bodyguard, didn't turn, just folded the wrapper once, very precisely, and slipped it into his pocket. Then he smiled at the woman across from him and said, "I'm sorry, Catherine, but I just remembered an urgent call I need to make. Would you excuse me?" The woman looked annoyed but nodded. Victor stood, buttoning his jacket with the kind of casual grace that probably cost 6 figures to learn. The bodyguard behind him shifted, hand still moving toward his jacket, and Nina saw it now, saw exactly what was about to happen. "Mr. Hale," the bodyguard said, voice tight. "Wrong." "Sit down." Victor stopped. The dining room had gone very quiet. That ambient hum of conversation and clinking silverware had died without Nina noticing, replaced by something heavier. The other bodyguard, the real one, standing to Victor's left, had his hand inside his jacket now too, but he was looking at his colleague, confusion flickering across his face. "Marcus," the fake bodyguard said, not taking his eyes off Victor. "Don't." So the real one was Marcus. Good to know. Except Marcus wasn't listening. His hand came out of his jacket holding something black and compact, and everything went to hell. The fake bodyguard drew faster. Nina saw the gun, saw it clear the holster, saw the way his finger was already on the trigger, and her body moved before her brain caught up. She grabbed the water pitcher from the nearest table and hurled it. It wasn't a good throw. It wasn't even close to accurate. But it was fast and unexpected, and the pitcher hit the fake bodyguard's shoulder just as he fired. The shot went wide, punching into the ceiling. Plaster dust rained down. Someone screamed. Then the real Marcus put 2 rounds into the fake bodyguard's chest. The sound was enormous in the enclosed space, a physical thing that hit Nina like a fist. Her ears rang. The fake bodyguard went down hard, gun clattering across the polished floor. And suddenly, everyone was moving. Chairs scraped. People dove under tables. A woman in diamonds was running for the exit, heels abandoned. The couple from table 7 was frozen, staring, and Nina wanted to scream at them to move, to get down, to do anything except sit there like targets. Victor Hale was already moving, fast and smooth, putting the table between himself and the rest of the room. Marcus was on him, one hand on his shoulder, gun still out, sweeping for additional threats. Nina couldn't move. Her legs had locked, every muscle gone rigid. She was still holding her serving tray. How stupid was that? She was standing in the middle of a gunfight holding a serving tray. "Down!" Marcus shouted. "Everybody down!" Nina dropped. The floor was cold. Hard. She pressed her cheek against it and tried to remember how to breathe. Footsteps. Heavy. Running. More of them than there should be. "3 more, Marcus said, voice clipped. "East entrance. Victor. On me." Nina risked a look. 3 men in dark clothes were coming through the main entrance, moving with purpose. Not panicked, not running away. Running toward. This wasn't over. One of them had a shotgun. The thought was almost funny. Who brings a shotgun to an upscale restaurant? But Nina wasn't laughing. She was pressed flat against the floor while men with guns tried to kill each other over white tablecloths and wine that cost more than her monthly rent. Marcus fired twice. One of the men went down. The other 2 scattered, using tables for cover, and the dining room turned into a war zone. Glass shattered. Someone was crying. Nina tried to make herself smaller, curling into the base of the service station, and wondered if this was how she died. Shot in a restaurant by men she'd never met, for reasons she'd never understand. A hand grabbed her arm. She nearly screamed. "Move." It was Victor Hale, voice calm, like they were discussing the weather. "You're too exposed here." He pulled her up, not roughly, but with absolute certainty, and Nina's legs remembered how to work. They ran, her and Victor and Marcus, toward the kitchen, while behind them the shooting continued. A shotgun blast took out the front windows. More screaming. The kitchen doors swung shut behind them, and Nina realized she was still holding her serving tray. "Where's the back exit?" Marcus demanded. The kitchen staff was already gone, smart enough to run when the shooting started. Empty prep stations, abandoned pans, a pot of something boiling over on the stove. "This way." Nina's voice came out steadier than she expected. She led them through the kitchen, past the walk-in freezer and the dry storage, to the service exit that opened onto the alley. Her hands were shaking now. Delayed reaction. She'd read about that once. Marcus went first, gun up, checking the alley. "Clear." They stepped out into the night. The air was cold, sharp with the smell of garbage and city rain. Nina could still hear gunfire from inside, muffled now, sirens in the distance, getting closer. Victor was looking at her. "What's your name?" he asked. "Nina." It came out automatically. "Nina Carter." "Nina Carter," he repeated like he was memorizing it. "You just saved my life." She didn't know what to say to that. Her brain felt scrambled, thoughts skipping like a damaged record. She'd thrown a water pitcher at a man with a gun. That was insane. That was the kind of thing that got you killed. How did you know? Victor asked. About the guard. His eyes, Nina said. The words came out without her permission. He was looking at you wrong, and his hand kept moving, like he was rehearsing it, building up to it. Victor exchanged a look with Marcus. Something passed between them, some kind of understanding Nina wasn't part of. We need to move, Marcus said. They'll check the alley. A black SUV pulled up at the mouth of the alley, tires squealing. Nina's heart jumped into her throat, but Marcus was already moving toward it, not away. The back door opened. Victor took her arm again. Wait, Nina said. I can't. I need to go home. My sister. Your sister will be fine, Victor said. But you won't be. Not if you go home. Not tonight. They saw you. They know you warned me. The sirens were louder now, close. The SUV's engine was running. Marcus was holding the door open, waiting. Nina thought about her apartment, about Emma, probably asleep by now, her headphones on, music too loud, about the life she'd built, small and quiet and safe. That life had just ended. She got in the SUV. The safe house was in a neighborhood Nina didn't recognize. Nice houses, old trees, the kind of place where people walked dogs at night and didn't check over their shoulders. Victor sat across from her in the SUV, silent. Marcus was in front, on his phone, speaking in clipped sentences. Nina caught fragments. 6 confirmed, inside job, need a full sweep. She should be terrified. Part of her was, but mostly she felt numb, like she was watching all this happen to someone else. The SUV pulled into a driveway. Garage door already open. They rolled inside and the door closed behind them, cutting off the outside world. This way? Victor's voice was gentle, like he was escorting her into a hotel, not a hiding place. Inside, the house looked normal, furniture that matched, books on shelves, a kitchen with clean counters. Nina had expected something different, something out of a movie, armed guards, surveillance monitors, weapons on the walls. Sit, Victor said, gesturing to the living room. Please. Nina sat. The couch was comfortable, expensive. She was still in her work clothes, black pants, white shirt, non-slip shoes. There was plaster dust in her hair from when the ceiling got shot. Marcus appeared with a glass of water. Nina took it because it gave her hands something to do. Your sister, Victor said, settling into the chair across from her. Emma, right? She's 17? Nina's head snapped up. How do you... I know things, Victor said. It's how I stay alive. Emma Carter, junior at Riverside High, honor roll, wants to study music. Lives with you in a 1-bedroom apartment in Bridgeton. You work 3 jobs to keep her there. Constellation, the grocery store on 5th, and weekend cleaning for a property management company. Nina's hand tightened around the glass. If you touch her, I won't. Victor's voice was firm. I protect my own, Nina. And as of tonight, you're mine to protect. I'm not yours. No, he agreed. But you're in danger because of me, which amounts to the same thing. The man you warned me about? His name was Peter Malik. He worked for me for 3 years. I trusted him. Someone got to him, turned him, paid him to put a bullet in my head. And when that failed, they sent 3 more men to finish the job. Who? Nina asked. That's what I'm going to find out. Victor leaned forward, elbows on his knees. But first, I need to make sure you're safe. And your sister. Marcus is already arranging protection for her. Discreet. She won't even know they're there, like... Nina wanted to argue, wanted to say she didn't need his help, didn't want any part of this. But she wasn't stupid. If they'd seen her, and they had, she'd walked right up to Victor's table in full view of everyone, then they knew she was involved. How long, she asked, until we find who ordered the hit? Could be days, could be longer. I have rent due, bills, Emma's school, taken care of, Victor said. All of it. You help me, I help you. That's how this works. Help you how? Nina's voice came out sharper than intended. I'm a waitress. What exactly do you think I can do? Victor smiled. It was a strange expression, not quite warm, not quite cold. Calculating. You saw something tonight that trained professionals missed, he said. Peter Malik passed every security screening. He'd been with me for 3 years, like I said. Vetted, watched, and in all that time, no one saw what you saw in 30 seconds. I got lucky. Luck doesn't read body language that well, Victor said. Luck doesn't throw a pitcher at a man with a gun. You have instincts, Nina. Good ones, survival instincts. The kind you don't learn, you earn them. Nina said nothing. She didn't want to talk about where those instincts came from, about the stepfather who taught her to read violence before it landed, about the years of walking on eggshells, watching for signs, learning which silences were safe and which ones meant run. I have people who handle security, Victor continued. Good people, but they think like security. Protocols, procedures, patterns. What I need right now is someone who thinks different, someone who notices what doesn't fit. You want me to find the traitor, Nina said. I want you to help me find everyone involved, Victor corrected. Peter wasn't acting alone. Someone recruited him. Someone planned this. And someone inside my organization is feeding them information. Nina set down the water glass. Her hands had stopped shaking. And if I say no, then I keep you safe anyway, Victor said, because that's the right thing to do. But I think you'll say yes. Why? Because you didn't have to warn me tonight. You could have walked away, minded your business, stayed safe. But you didn't. You saw something wrong and you acted, even though it put you at risk. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are. Nina thought about Emma, about the college applications she'd helped her fill out last month, about the music scholarship she might actually get if her grades stayed solid, about the life Nina had fought for, tooth and nail, ever since she'd gotten custody when Emma was 12 and she was 20. How much? She asked. Victor blinked. Excuse me? How much do you pay people who help you find traitors? For the first time that night, Victor Hale laughed. It was a real laugh, surprised and genuine. 50,000, he said. 50,000 when this is over, plus all expenses covered while you're under my protection. Your sister's too. And when it's done, if you want a new life somewhere else, I'll make that happen. New city, new name. Whatever you need. $50,000. Nina made $32,000 a year across all 3 jobs. $50,000 was almost 2 years of her life. Emma's first year of college, paid in full, a car that didn't break down every other month, a security deposit on an apartment with a real bedroom for each of them. Okay, Nina said. Okay. I'll help you. Victor extended his hand. Nina shook it. His grip was firm, warm, and she had the distinct feeling she'd just made a deal with something dangerous. Good, Victor said, releasing her hand. We start tomorrow. For tonight, get some rest. Marcus will show you to your room. There's clothes in the closet, bathroom stocked, anything you need. Nina stood. Her legs felt more solid now. What about Emma? She's already covered, Marcus said from the doorway. Nina hadn't heard him approach. 2 men outside your building, 1 in the lobby. Rotations every 6 hours. If she leaves, they follow. If anyone approaches her, they intervene. She won't see them unless she needs to. Nina nodded. It should have been comforting. Mostly it just made everything feel more real. Marcus led her upstairs to a bedroom that looked like it belonged in a catalog. Big bed, clean sheets, window with curtains that actually matched. Nina sat on the edge of the bed and tried to process the last 2 hours. She'd thrown a pitcher at a gunman. She'd gotten into a car with a crime lord. She'd just agreed to help hunt down a traitor for $50,000. Emma was going to kill her, assuming she survived long enough to tell her. Nina pulled out her phone. 3 missed calls, all from Emma. 2 texts. Where are you? Your shift ended an hour ago. Nina, am freaking out. Call me. She typed back. Sorry. Emergency at work. Staying at a friend's place tonight. I'm fine. Love you. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, what friend? You don't have friends. Fair point. New friend, from work. I'll explain tomorrow. Go to sleep. You're being weird. I know, trust me. Love you. The dots appeared and disappeared twice before Emma responded. Love you too, but you're explaining everything tomorrow. Nina set the phone down. She should sleep. She was exhausted, running on adrenaline and shock. But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Peter Malik's face, saw his hand moving toward his gun, saw the moment he realized what she'd done. She'd changed his plan, changed everything, and now someone out there knew her name. Nina woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all came back. The restaurant, the gunfire, Victor's offer. She sat up, heart pounding, and checked her phone, 7:42 a.m. 3 new messages from Emma, all variations of "Are you alive?" and "Seriously, WTF?" She got up, found the bathroom, used the toothbrush someone had left on the counter still in its package. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly. Jeans, a sweater, even new socks. She didn't want to think about how Victor had known her size. Downstairs, she found Marcus in the kitchen, reading something on a tablet. "Coffee?" he offered. "Please." He poured her a cup. It was good coffee, the kind she couldn't afford. Nina sat at the kitchen island and tried to feel normal. "Victor's in his office," Marcus said. "He'll want to brief you soon, but first, you should eat." He pushed a plate toward her. Eggs, toast, actual bacon. Nina's stomach growled. She couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. Yesterday's lunch, maybe? "Thank you," she said. Marcus nodded. He was different in daylight, younger than she'd thought. Maybe early 30s, tired eyes, a scar along his jaw she hadn't noticed before. "How long have you worked for him?" Nina asked. 8 years. Marcus didn't look up from his tablet. "He saved my life. I returned the favor. Been doing it ever since." "What happened?" "If you don't mind me asking." Marcus glanced at her, assessing. Then, "I was a cop. Good one, too. Until I wasn't. Victor gave me a second chance when no one else would." Nina wanted to ask more, but something in Marcus's expression told her to leave it alone. She ate in silence. The eggs were perfect. When had she last had eggs that weren't scrambled in a microwave? Victor appeared in the doorway, dressed in slacks and a button-down, looking like he'd slept 8 hours and spent the morning at a spa instead of surviving an assassination attempt 12 hours ago. "Good morning," he said. "How did you sleep?" "Fine," Nina lied. "Liar." Victor poured himself coffee. "But I appreciate the effort." "Marcus, status?" Emma Carter left for school at 7:15. Team confirmed no tails, no suspicious activity. The restaurant's been processed. Police found 4 dead, 6 wounded. They're calling it a gang dispute. "Creative," Victor said dryly. "Captain Reeves is asking questions." "Let him ask. What about the men who came through the front?" 2 dead at the scene. 1 in custody, not talking. Yet. Marcus's smile was unpleasant. "He will." Nina set down her fork. "You're going to torture him?" Both men looked at her. "Not torture," Victor said carefully. "Strongly encourage him to reconsider his loyalties." "That sounds like torture with better PR." "Would you prefer we ask nicely?" Marcus asked. "Offer him coffee and sympathy?" "I'd prefer you not." Nina stopped. These weren't her people. This wasn't her world. She had no right to judge how they operated. Never mind. "No." Victor sat down across from her. "Say it. You're part of this now. You get a voice." Nina met his eyes. They were dark, unreadable. "I just don't want to be part of something that hurts people. More than necessary, I mean. I know that sounds naive." "It doesn't sound naive," Victor said. "It sounds principled." "Good. I need someone with principles right now. Everyone else is starting to look suspect." He opened a folder, spread photographs across the table. Faces, men in suits, a few women. Some of them looked familiar. Nina thought she'd seen them at the restaurant before. "These are my inner circle," Victor said. 17 people who have access to my schedule, my movements, my security protocols. One of them, at least one, is working against me. Nina studied the photos, tried to see past the professional smiles and expensive clothes. "Tell me about Peter Malik," she said. "The fake bodyguard. Who recruited him?" "That's what we need to find out," Victor said. "He was assigned to my detail 3 months ago. Before that, he worked in property security for one of my holdings downtown. Clean record, no red flags." "Who assigned him?" "Adrian Voss." Victor tapped one of the photos. A man in his 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. "My head of security. He's been with me for 12 years. If there's someone I trust, it's him." "But you don't trust him," Nina said. Victor's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. "I trust his competence, but Peter was his man, which means either Adrian made a mistake or Adrian is the problem." Or someone above Adrian, Marcus added. Someone who could override his vetting. Who has that authority? Nina asked. Victor pointed to 3 more photos. Catherine Lyle. You met her last night, briefly. She runs my legitimate business operations. Real estate, investments, the museum board. Then there's James Torrance, my attorney. And finally, Adrian. What about you? Nina asked. You could override anyone. I don't handle day-to-day personnel, Victor said. That's what I pay people for. Peter's assignment would have been approved at Adrian's level, possibly with Catherine's sign-off if it involved public-facing events. Nina pulled Adrian's photo closer, studied his face. Has his behavior changed recently? New expenses? Travel? Meetings with people outside your organization? Marcus? Marcus pulled up something on his tablet. Adrian's been clean, same routine, same expenses, no unusual contact. If he's the leak, he's being careful. Too careful, Nina said. Both men looked at her. People make mistakes, she explained. They get comfortable, sloppy. If Adrian's been with you for 12 years and he suddenly goes completely clean, no deviations at all, that's suspicious. It means he's trying too hard. Victor smiled. See? This is exactly what I need. Fresh eyes. What about the others? Nina pointed to the remaining photos. Who else had access to your schedule yesterday? Victor walked her through them. Catherine, the businesswoman. James, the lawyer. Adrian, security. Then there were the lieutenants, men who ran various operations, reported directly to Victor, had pieces of the puzzle but not the whole picture. Any of them could have known I'd be at Constellation, Victor said. It's one of my regular spots. I go there twice a month, always on Thursdays, always the same table. Predictable, Nina said. By design. People need to be able to find me, within reason. Accessibility breeds loyalty, but it also creates vulnerabilities. Nina stood, walked to the window. The neighborhood outside looked peaceful. Normal. Hard to believe she was hiding from assassins in a house that smelled like fresh coffee and expensive furniture polish. I need to see where Peter Malik lived, she said, and I need to talk to the guy you have in custody, the one who's not talking yet. Victor and Marcus exchanged glances. You want to interrogate him? Marcus asked. I want to watch you interrogate him, Nina corrected. See how he reacts. Body language, like you said. Maybe I'll catch something. That's not how this usually works, Marcus said carefully. Then change how it works. Nina turned back to them. You hired me to see what you miss. Let me do my job. Victor's smile widened. I like her. She's going to be a problem, Marcus said, but there was approval in his voice. The best people usually are. Victor stood, straightening his cuffs. All right, Nina Carter, let's see what you can do. Peter Malik had lived in a studio apartment in Fletcher Heights, the kind of building where the elevator smelled like old cooking and broken dreams. Marcus had already been through it once, but he let Nina take the lead this time. The apartment was small, clean, almost compulsively so. One room that served as bedroom, living room, and kitchen. Bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. Nina moved slowly, touching nothing, just looking. No photos, she said. Marcus looked up from the desk he was searching. What? No pictures, no family photos, no friends, nothing personal on the walls, just generic art, the kind that comes with the frame. Some people don't do photos. Everyone does something, Nina said. Even if it's just a postcard or a concert ticket or a coffee mug with a stupid saying. This place looks like a hotel room, like he was just passing through. She opened the closet. 4 suits, all dark, 6 shirts, 2 pairs of shoes, everything arranged with military precision. How long did he live here, but? Nina asked. Lease says 9 months, say. 9 months and he hasn't unpacked. Nina closed the closet. Or he packed light on purpose. Easy to leave fast if he needed to. She moved to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator. Milk, eggs, basic groceries. Nothing unusual. The freezer held 2 frozen dinners and an ice tray. Check the ice, Nina said. Why? Just check it. Marcus pulled out the tray, knocked the ice into the sink. Nothing. But when he checked the compartment underneath, he found a small waterproof bag. Inside, $10,000 in cash and a burner phone. Well, Set, Marcus said. That's interesting. Nina felt a small surge of satisfaction. She'd been right. Can you trace the phone? Already on it. Marcus was typing on his phone. If you made any calls, we'll know. They left the apartment building, got back into the SUV. Nina watched the neighborhood roll past. Chain link fences, corner stores with bars on the windows, people waiting at bus stops with that look of tired resignation she knew too well. How did you know? Marcus asked. About the ice. My stepfather used to hide things, Nina said. Money, mostly. Sometimes other stuff. Pills. Whatever he didn't want my mom finding. The freezer was his favorite spot. Figured it was worth checking. Marcus didn't ask about the stepfather. Nina was grateful. The interrogation room was in a warehouse across town, the kind of place that didn't exist on any official record. Marcus led her down a hallway that smelled like concrete and old paint, stopped at a door with a one-way mirror. He's in there, Marcus said. Name's Kyle Brennan. 28, ex-military, dishonorable discharge 3 years ago. Been working private security since then. He's not talking, but he's scared. Through the mirror, Nina could see a young man handcuffed to a table. He looked tired, pale. There was dried blood on his collar from a split lip. Who hit him? Nina asked. He resisted during arrest. Uh-huh. Marcus gave her a look. We're not the good guys, Nina. The sooner you accept that, the easier this gets. I never said you were the good guys, Nina replied. I just want to know if the hitting worked. Not yet. Want to watch me try again? Nina studied Kyle Brennan through the glass. He was bouncing his leg under the table, a nervous habit. His eyes kept going to the door. Not aggressive, not defiant, just frightened. Let me try something, Nina said. Absolutely not. Why? What's the worst that happens? He doesn't talk to me either? Marcus looked like he wanted to argue, then shrugged. Your funeral? But I'm staying in the room. Fine. They went in together. Kyle's head snapped up, eyes widening when he saw Nina. Who's she? He asked. She's the reason you failed last night, Marcus said, pulling out a chair. Nina, meet Kyle. Kyle, this is Nina. She wants to ask you some questions. Nina sat down across from Kyle. Up close, he looked even younger. Kid, really. Couldn't be more than a few years older than Emma. Hi, Kyle, she said. He stared at her. You're scared, Nina continued. I get that. You should be. But here's the thing. The people who hired you, they're not coming to save you. They sent you to die last night. You know that, right? Kyle's jaw tightened. You were supposed to go in through the front with 2 other guys, cause chaos, maybe kill Victor Hale if you got lucky. But that wasn't the real plan. The real plan was Peter Malik putting a bullet in Victor's head while everyone was distracted. You were the distraction. Disposable. You don't know anything, Kyle said, but his voice shook. I know they didn't tell you about Peter. I know you thought you were part of a team, but really you were just cover. And now Peter's dead, your 2 friends are dead, and you're sitting here while the people who promised you money are probably already forgetting your name. Kyle looked away. How much did they offer you? Nina asked gently. Silence. 20,000? 30? 50, Kyle said quietly. 50,000. Half up front. The same amount Victor had offered Nina. That felt significant somehow. Who gave you the money? Nina asked. I don't know. It was all online, encrypted messages. They sent the money to a crypto wallet. But someone recruited you in person, Nina pressed. Someone you met face to face. Someone who knew you needed money, knew about your discharge, knew you could be bought. Kyle's legs stopped bouncing. Who was it, Kyle? If I tell you, they'll kill me. If you don't tell us, we'll kill you, Marcus said flatly. Slower. Nina shot him a look. Nobody's killing anybody. Kyle, listen to me. You made a mistake, a big one, but it's not too late. Help us, and maybe we can help you. Keep quiet, and you're just going to disappear. No trial, no record, just gone. Kyle's breathing was fast, shallow, panic setting in. His name was Adrian, he said finally. Adrian Voss. He said it was a simple job. In and out. Nobody would get hurt. He lied. Nina felt something cold settle in her stomach. Adrian, Victor's head of security, the man he'd known for 12 years. Did Adrian tell you about Peter Malik? She asked. No, I didn't know about any inside man until... Kyle stopped, swallowed hard. Until last night, when everything went wrong. When the shooting started and Peter was supposed to already be done, but he wasn't. And then you... You threw that pitcher and it all fell apart. What else did Adrian tell you? That Victor Hale was a bad man. That taking him out was doing the city a favor. That there were people ready to step in, clean things up, make it better. What people? He didn't say. Just that it was bigger than me. Bigger than all of us. Nina sat back, looked at Marcus. He was already on his phone. Thank you, Kyle, Nina said. That took courage. Am I going to die? Kyle asked. Nina didn't have an answer for that. She stood up, left the room with Marcus right behind her. In the hallway, Marcus was already typing something. I'm sending this to Victor. He needs to know. Adrian's going to run, Nina said. The moment he realizes we have Kyle, he'll disappear. Not if we move first. Marcus's phone rang. He answered. Yeah, we got confirmation. Adrian Voss, he's the leak. A pause. Understood. He hung up, looked at Nina. Victor wants Adrian brought in. Alive if possible. And if not possible? Marcus's expression was answer enough. They drove back to the safe house in silence. Nina's mind was racing, trying to fit pieces together. Adrian had recruited Kyle. Adrian had assigned Peter Malik. Adrian had orchestrated the whole thing. But why? 12 years of loyalty, and then suddenly he turns? People didn't just flip like that. Not without a reason. Money, maybe. Or fear. Or something else Nina hadn't seen yet. Victor was waiting when they arrived. He looked calm, but Nina was learning to read him. The tightness around his eyes, the way his hand rested on the desk, fingers spread just a bit too wide. He was furious. Tell me, he said. Nina recounted the interrogation, watched Victor's face as she confirmed what he'd probably already suspected. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. 12 years, he said finally. I gave him everything, trust, money, respect, and he sold me out for what? A bigger piece of someone else's pie? We don't know his reasons yet, Nina said carefully. I don't care about his reasons. Victor's voice was cold, hard. I care about sending a message. You betray me, you die. It's simple. It's not simple if he had help, Nina said. Kyle said it was bigger than all of them. Adrian's not working alone. If you kill him before we find out who else is involved, you'll be right back where you started. Victor looked at her, really looked, like he was seeing something new. You're right, he said. Which is why you're going to help me find them, all of them. How? Victor's smile was dangerous. By doing exactly what Adrian won't expect. We're going to make him think he's still trusted, still safe. And we're going to watch very carefully to see who he runs to. Nina understood. You want to use him as bait. I want to use him as a trail of breadcrumbs leading straight to everyone who thought they could take what's mine. It was a good plan, brutal but effective. Nina should have been horrified, should have wanted out. Instead, she found herself nodding. What do you need me to do? She asked. And just like that, she was all the way in. The next 48 hours were a masterclass in deception. Victor played his part perfectly. He called Adrian personally, voice warm with gratitude, thanking him for his quick response during the attack. Praised his team's training, even joked about needing to update their threat assessments. Adrian sounded relieved on the other end of the line, professional as always, promising a full security review by week's end. Nina listened to the call on speaker, watching Victor's face stay smooth while his eyes stayed cold. He bought it, Marcus said after Victor hung up. Of course he did, Victor replied. Adrian thinks he's smarter than me, always has. That's his weakness. Nina had been studying Adrian's file for hours. Everything Marcus could pull. Financial records, phone logs, surveillance footage from the past 6 months. On paper, the man was clean. Too clean, like she'd said before. But there were gaps. Small ones. An hour here, 2 hours there, where his location couldn't be confirmed. He's careful, she told Victor. Meets his contacts in dead zones, places without cameras, probably uses burner phones, changes them regularly. So how do we catch him? Nina tapped the file. We don't catch him. We make him catch himself. She'd been thinking about this since the interrogation. Adrian was smart, experienced, paranoid. He wouldn't slip up easily. But everyone had pressure points. Everyone had something they cared about more than being careful. What's his weak spot? Nina asked. Victor considered. Money. Adrian likes money, always has. That's why I paid him well, kept him loyal. Except it didn't, Marcus pointed out, because someone offered him more, Nina said. Or offered him something money can't buy. Power, maybe. A bigger role. What if we make him think the whole thing's falling apart? That whoever he's working with is about to cut him loose? Victor's eyes sharpened. Create panic. Force him to make contact. Exactly. If he thinks he's about to lose everything, he'll reach out to his handler, try to salvage the situation. And when he does, we follow the breadcrumbs, Marcus finished. It was risky. If Adrian suspected a trap, he'd disappear. But doing nothing meant waiting for the next attack, and Victor was done playing defense. How do we panic him? Victor asked. Nina had already thought about that too. Kyle Brennan. We let it leak that he's talking, that he gave up names. Adrian will think his cover's blown. Adrian knows we have Kyle, Marcus said. He's probably already assuming Kyle talked. Assuming isn't knowing, Nina countered. Right now, Adrian's probably telling himself that Kyle doesn't know enough to hurt him, that all their communication was encrypted, untraceable. But if we make it seem like we have proof, recordings, messages, something concrete, he'll panic. Victor smiled. I'll make a call. Get word to Adrian through one of my people that we've recovered data from Kyle's phone. Encrypted files that are being decrypted as we speak. Will he believe it? Nina asked. He'll believe enough to worry, and worry makes people sloppy. The plan was set in motion that afternoon. Victor made his call, casual and concerned, mentioning to one of his trusted lieutenants, a man named Thomas who reported directly to Adrian, that the interrogation had yielded something unexpected. Technical evidence. The kind that couldn't be denied. Thomas would tell Adrian. Adrian would try to verify, and then they'd watch what he did next. Nina spent the rest of the day learning the organization's structure. Victor walked her through it, names and faces and relationships that went back decades. It was complicated, layered, with legitimate businesses hiding less legitimate operations, hiding things Victor wouldn't discuss even with her. You don't need to know everything, he said when she pressed. Just enough to spot what doesn't fit. Catherine Lyle came by the safe house that evening. The woman from the restaurant, elegant and composed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Nina's car. She looked at Nina with undisguised curiosity. So you're the waitress who saved his life, Catherine said, extending a hand. I'm Catherine. Nina. The handshake was firm, cool. Victor tells me you're helping us with a personnel issue. Personnel issue. That was one way to describe hunting traitors. I'm trying, Nina said. Catherine smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. I'm sure you are. Though I have to say, this is highly irregular. We have professionals for this sort of thing. And yet one of your professionals tried to kill him, Nina said. The smile vanished. Touché. They sat in Victor's office. Nina, Victor, Catherine, and Marcus. Catherine had brought files, ledgers, things that meant nothing to Nina but made Victor's expression tighten. The real estate deal in Fletcher Heights is stalling, Catherine said. The city council is asking questions. I think someone's been talking to them. Who? Victor asked. I don't know yet, but the timing is suspicious. Right after the attempt on your life, suddenly we have regulatory problems? Adrian handles some of our city contacts, Marcus noted. Adrian handles everything, Catherine said sharply. That's the problem. He's embedded so deeply that cutting him out will cause damage no matter how careful we are. Then we don't cut him out, Victor said. Not yet. We isolate him, slowly, move responsibilities around, make it look natural. Nina listened, trying to follow the conversation. They were talking about construction permits and zoning variances, but underneath it was something else. Power, territory, money flowing through channels she couldn't see. What about James? Catherine asked. Have you told him yet? No, Victor said, and we're keeping it that way. The fewer people who know about Adrian, the better. James is your attorney. He'll need to know eventually. Eventually isn't now. Catherine didn't look happy, but she nodded. She gathered her files, stood to leave, then paused at the door. Be careful with this one, she said, glancing at Nina. She's observant. That can be useful or dangerous, depending. When she was gone, Nina looked at Victor. She doesn't trust me. She doesn't trust anyone, Victor said. That's what makes her valuable. Do you trust her? Victor was quiet for a moment. Catherine's been with me for 15 years. She's built half my legitimate empire. If she wanted me dead, she's had 1,000 opportunities. So yes, I trust her, as much as I trust anyone. Which wasn't much, Nina was learning. That night, Nina called Emma. They'd been texting, but Emma was demanding a real conversation, and Nina couldn't put it off any longer. Okay, seriously, what is going on? Emma said the moment she picked up. You've been gone for 2 days. You're not at work. You're not home. Are you in trouble? No, Nina lied. I'm fine. Something came up. I'm helping someone with a project. What project? And who? Nina, you're freaking me out. Nina closed her eyes. She hated lying to Emma. They'd promised each other after everything with their mother and the stepfather that they'd always be honest. No secrets. I can't explain right now, Nina said, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Silence on the other end, then. Are you safe? Yes. Are you going to come home? Soon. I promise. You promise. I promise. Emma sighed. Okay, but Nina, whatever this is, be careful. You always try to save everyone. Sometimes you need to save yourself first. The words hit harder than Nina expected. I know. I love you. Love you too. Even when you're being weird and mysterious. After she hung up, Nina sat in the dark bedroom, staring at nothing. Emma was right. She did try to save people. Had been doing it since she was 12 years old, standing between her mother and a man twice her size, learning that sometimes the only way to protect someone was to put yourself in the line of fire. She'd saved Victor the same way, without thinking, just reacting. And now she was in so deep she couldn't see the surface anymore. The next morning, Marcus came to her with news. Adrian made contact. Nina sat up. When? 3 hours ago. He went to a coffee shop in Riverside, sat for exactly 8 minutes, then left. No phone call we could detect. No visible handoff. But he met someone. Who? Marcus pulled up surveillance footage on his tablet. The video showed Adrian at a corner table, across from a man Nina didn't recognize. Older, maybe 60, gray hair, expensive coat. That's Richard Kane, Marcus said. He owns a private security firm. Does contract work for some of the biggest names in the city. Also rumored to have connections to organized crime, though nothing's ever stuck. Is he one of yours? Nina asked Victor, who joined them. No, Victor said, studying the screen. We've crossed paths, but we're not allies. If Adrian's meeting with him, it's not on my behalf. Nina watched the video. Adrian was talking, animated, stressed. Richard Kane just listened, expression neutral. Then Kane said something short, stood, and left. The whole meeting lasted less than 10 minutes. What do you think they discussed? Nina asked. Damage control, Victor said. Adrian's trying to figure out how much trouble he's in. Kane's probably telling him to stay calm, stick to the plan. Or Kane's telling him to run, Marcus suggested. He won't run, Nina said. Both men looked at her. Adrian's not stupid. He knows running makes him look guilty. Right now he thinks he can still play this off. Convince you he's loyal. He'll only run if he's absolutely certain you know. So we need to make him certain, Victor said. Nina nodded. But carefully. If we push too hard too fast, he disappears and we lose our chance to find everyone else involved. What do you suggest? Nina thought about it. Bring him in for a meeting. Make it seem routine. Security debrief after the attack. But during the meeting, mention something that only the traitor would know. Watch how he reacts. Like what? The money, Nina said. Kyle said Adrian paid him $50,000, half up front. If we mention that specific amount in connection to the investigation, Adrian will know we have details we shouldn't, but it won't be obvious enough to look like a direct accusation. Victor smiled. You're good at this. I'm good at reading people, Nina corrected. This is just applied observation. Call it whatever you want. Set it up, Marcus. The meeting was scheduled for the next afternoon at one of Victor's offices downtown. Nina wouldn't be there. Too risky, too obvious, but they'd have her watching via hidden cameras, ready to analyze every micro-expression, every tell. In the meantime, Victor had other business to handle. Nina asked if she could observe, and to her surprise, he agreed. You want to understand how this works? He said. Then you need to see all of it, not just the crisis management. She followed him to a building in the industrial district, the kind of place that looked abandoned but wasn't. Inside it was clean, organized, busy. People moving with purpose. Computers, filing cabinets, a whole operation running smoothly. This is where we handle logistics, Victor explained. Shipments, inventory, distribution. Completely legal before you ask. We import electronics, luxury goods, specialty items. Everything gets documented, taxed, tracked. And the illegal stuff? Victor glanced at her. What illegal stuff? Nina didn't push it. She watched him work, watched him talk to his people, ask questions, solve problems. He was good at it. Patient, direct, fair. People respected him. Some even seemed to like him. It was strange seeing this side of him, the businessman instead of the crime lord. You're surprised, Victor said, catching her expression. A little, Nina admitted. You thought I'd be crueler? More obviously villainous? I don't know what I thought. Victor led her to his office on the second floor, windows overlooking the warehouse floor. Most people in this business are cruel because they're scared. They think fear equals respect, violence equals strength. But fear only works until someone scarier comes along. Respect? That lasts. Is that why Adrian turned on you? Nina asked. Because he didn't respect you? Adrian turned on me because someone convinced him he could do better without me. That's greed, not disrespect. Though maybe they're the same thing. He poured 2 glasses of water from a pitcher on his desk, handed one to Nina. The gesture was so normal, it threw her. Can I ask you something? Nina said. You just did. But go ahead. Why do you do this? You have legitimate businesses, money, influence. You could walk away from the other stuff, be completely legal. Why don't you? Victor sat on the edge of his desk, considering. You know what I learned early on? The law protects people who don't need protection. The rich. The connected. Everyone else has to fend for themselves. I grew up fending for myself. And when I got powerful enough to make my own rules, I did. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. He looked at her directly. I'm not a good man, Nina. I don't pretend to be. But I'm fair. I keep my word. I protect my own. In this world, that's something. Nina wanted to argue, wanted to point out that fairness didn't excuse the rest of it, but she'd grown up in the same world Victor had, just from a different angle. She knew how little the law cared about people like her and Emma, how many times she'd needed help and found none. So instead, she just nodded. They stayed in the office for another hour, going over more files, more details about Adrian's movements. Nina was learning to spot the patterns, the gaps, the places where someone could hide secrets. You're a natural at this, Victor said. I've been doing it my whole life, Nina replied, just in different contexts. Your stepfather. Nina stiffened. How do you know about that? I told you, I know things. Robert Jennings. Married your mother when you were 8. Drunk, violent, arrested twice for assault, but never convicted. Your mother stayed with him until she died. You took Emma and left the day after the funeral. Nina's hands tightened around her water glass. Stop. I'm not judging. I'm explaining why I chose you. You chose me because I was there. I chose you because you survived something terrible and came out stronger. That takes a specific kind of person, the kind I need. Nina stood. She needed to move, to do something with the anger suddenly burning in her chest. You don't know anything about what I survived. You're right, Victor said quietly. I don't. But I know you recognize predators when you see them. You've been doing it your whole life. That's why you spotted Peter Malik before my trained security did. That's why you're better at this than people who've been doing it for decades. Don't make me into something I'm not. I'm not. I'm seeing you for what you are. Nina turned away, stared out the window at the warehouse below. People working. Normal people with normal jobs, probably no idea what else happened in this building, in this organization. I should check on Emma, she said, changing the subject. She's fine. Marcus has people watching her around the clock. I know. I still want to check. Victor didn't argue. He gave her space, went back to his desk, and Nina pulled out her phone. Texted Emma. Got back a string of emojis and a complaint about her chemistry teacher. Normal. Safe. The meeting with Adrian was set for 2 o'clock the next day. Nina spent the morning preparing with Victor and Marcus, going over every detail. They'd set up the conference room with hidden cameras covering every angle. Nina would watch from a separate room with a direct line to Marcus's earpiece. Remember, Nina told them, We're looking for micro-expressions. A flinch. A pause. Anything that shows recognition when you mention the 50,000. And if he doesn't react, Marcus asked, then either he's better at this than we thought, or we're wrong about him. We're not wrong, Victor said flatly. At 1:30, Nina was in position in the surveillance room. Multiple screens showing different angles of the conference room. Marcus testing the audio feed. Everything ready. Adrian arrived at 2 exactly. Nina watched him enter, shake Victor's hand, take his seat. He looked tired but composed. Professional. Victor started with pleasantries, thanking Adrian for coming, discussing the security review. Adrian responded appropriately, taking notes, asking questions. Nothing seemed off. Then Victor shifted topics. We've made progress on the investigation, he said casually. The interrogation yielded some interesting details. Financial transactions, mostly. Apparently the attackers were each promised $50,000, half up front. Nina watched Adrian's face on the screen. There, just for a second. His eyes widened fractionally. His hand stopped mid-note, a tiny hitch in his breathing. 50,000, Adrian repeated. That's specific. Very specific, Victor agreed. Makes me think whoever hired them had access to serious capital. This wasn't some amateur operation. Adrian nodded slowly. Do we have any leads on the source of the money? We're working on it. Marcus has people tracing the crypto transactions. Should have answers soon. Another micro-expression. Adrian's jaw tightened. His left hand, resting on the table, curled into a partial fist before he caught himself and relaxed it. Good, Adrian said. That's good. Whoever did this needs to pay. Nina was already typing notes on her laptop, documenting every reaction. He knew. He absolutely knew. The mention of 50,000 had rattled him, and the crypto detail had made it worse. The meeting continued for another 20 minutes. Adrian maintained his composure, but Nina caught 3 more tells. A slight tremor in his voice when discussing next steps, unnecessary touching of his face, and a tendency to over-explain simple points. Classic signs of stress. When Adrian left, Victor and Marcus joined Nina in the surveillance room. Well? Victor asked. He's scared, Nina said. The 50,000 got him, and the mention of tracing crypto transactions made it worse. He knows we're closer than he thought. So what's his next move? Marcus asked. He'll try to contact whoever's above him, warn them. Maybe ask for an exit strategy. We need to be ready to follow him the second he leaves this building. Marcus was already on his phone coordinating with the surveillance team. They had 3 cars ready, multiple spotters, the best people Victor had. Nina watched the screens showing the building's exterior. Saw Adrian emerge, walk to his car, sit inside for a full minute before starting the engine. He's thinking, Nina said, weighing options. Adrian's car pulled out. The surveillance team followed. For the next 2 hours, Nina watched the operation unfold in real time. Adrian drove across the city, taking a deliberately complicated route, checking for tails. He stopped twice, once at a shopping center, once at a park, walking through both areas before returning to his car. He's good, Marcus muttered. Knows counter-surveillance. But Victor's team was better. They rotated vehicles, used multiple spotters on foot, stayed invisible. Finally, Adrian stopped at a restaurant in the financial district. High-end, expensive. He went inside alone. Can we get eyes inside? Victor asked. Working on it, Marcus said. One of his people was already entering the restaurant, posing as a customer. 5 minutes later, they had visuals. Adrian was sitting in a booth near the back, across from someone Nina recognized from the photos. Catherine Lyle. The room went silent. Catherine, Victor said softly. He's meeting with Catherine. Nina stared at the screen. Catherine and Adrian were talking, heads close together. Catherine's expression was neutral, but her body language was tense. Does this mean she's involved? Nina asked. Or it means Adrian's trying to involve her, Marcus suggested, using her as an alibi, making it look like he's still loyal, still coordinating with Victor's inner circle. Or she's been part of it from the beginning, Victor said. His voice was different now, colder. 15 years. She's been with me for 15 years. Nina watched Catherine on the screen, watched her listen to Adrian, nod occasionally, say something that made Adrian lean back and shake his head. It looked like an argument. We need audio, Nina said. Too risky, Marcus replied. The restaurant's too public. We'd have to get too close. They watched for another 10 minutes. Then Catherine stood, put money on the table, and left. Adrian sat alone for a moment, then checked his phone and left as well. Nina's mind was racing. If Catherine was involved, that changed everything. She wasn't just another lieutenant. She controlled the legitimate businesses, the money flows, the connections that kept Victor's empire running. "We can't assume anything yet," Nina said. "This could be innocent. Adrian might be trying to recruit her, or testing her loyalty, or she's been playing me for 15 years, Victor interrupted, building my trust while planning to take it all. "We need more proof," Nina insisted. "One meeting isn't enough." Victor stood, walked to the window. Outside, the city stretched endlessly, towers of glass and steel reflecting the late afternoon sun. "Pull Catherine's records," he told Marcus. "Everything. Financial, communication, travel. I want to know every move she's made in the last 6 months." "Victor, do it." Marcus left without another word. Nina stayed, watching Victor's reflection in the window. "What if you're wrong?" she asked quietly. "What if Catherine's loyal and Adrian's just trying to manipulate her?" "Then I apologize and we move on," Victor said. "But if I'm right and I do nothing, she destroys everything I've built." "Is that what you're afraid of? Losing your empire?" Victor turned. "I'm afraid of being wrong about someone I trusted. Again. That's twice in 1 week, Nina. That's a pattern." Nina understood. This wasn't about business. It was personal. Victor had built his world on knowing people, reading them, predicting them. And if both Adrian and Catherine had fooled him, it meant his instincts were failing. "Let me help," Nina said. "Let me look at Catherine's files. Fresh eyes, remember?" Victor nodded slowly. "All right. But Nina? If she's guilty, there's no saving her. You understand that?" "I understand." She wasn't sure she did, but she knew better than to argue. The rest of the day was spent in data. Catherine's financial records were complex, layered, deliberately opaque. She was smart, covered her tracks well. But Nina had learned something important over the past few days. Everyone left traces. You just had to know where to look. She found the first anomaly around midnight, a payment from one of Catherine's personal accounts to a consulting firm that didn't seem to exist. $20,000 6 months ago. "Marcus, look at this," Nina said. He came over, studied the screen, ran the consulting firm's name through several databases. Nothing came up. "Shell company," he said. "Money goes in, disappears. Standard laundering technique." "Would Catherine need to launder money?" Nina asked. "She's already running Victor's legitimate operations. Not if the money's clean, but if she's getting paid from outside sources, sources that can't be disclosed." Marcus trailed off. "This is bad." They kept digging. Found 2 more payments to different shell companies, all in the last 8 months, all for amounts that were significant but not alarming enough to trigger automatic flags. Nina sat back, rubbing her eyes. "She's being careful. Small amounts spread out over time." "Total comes to 80,000, Marcus said. "That's not small." "No. But it's not enough to fund a takeover attempt either. Where's the rest?" They worked through the night, cross-referencing Catherine's movements with the shell company payments, looking for patterns. Nina's vision started to blur around 3 a.m., but she kept going, fueled by coffee and the knowledge that they were close to something. At 4:15, she found it. "Marcus, the consulting firm that received the first payment, it's registered to an address in Fletcher Heights." Marcus pulled up the property records. The building was owned by a corporation. 3 levels deep, they found the name behind the corporation. Richard Kane, the man Adrian had met at the coffee shop. "There it is," Marcus said quietly. "The connection. Catherine's been paying money to Kane. Adrian's been meeting with Kane. They're working together." Nina's stomach dropped. "We need to tell Victor." "He's asleep." "Then wake him up. This can't wait." Marcus made the call. 5 minutes later, Victor appeared, hair disheveled, eyes sharp despite the hour. Nina showed him what they'd found, watched his expression harden with each piece of evidence. "How long have they been planning this?" Victor asked. "At least 8 months, Nina said. "Maybe longer. The payments to Kane started around the same time Adrian brought Peter Malik onto your security detail. So Catherine's funding it, Adrian's executing it, and Kane's providing the muscle. Looks that way." Victor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was deadly calm. We move tomorrow. Round them all up. Adrian, Catherine, Kane, anyone associated with them. I want answers, and I want them all at once so no one has time to run. That's risky, Marcus warned. If we miss anyone, they'll scatter. We won't miss anyone. Victor looked at Nina. Will we? Nina thought about it. Thought about everything they'd learned, every connection they'd traced. There's still someone missing. Someone above all of them. 80,000 isn't enough money to fund this operation. The 50,000 promised to the attackers alone wipes out most of it. There's another source. Someone with real capital. Who? Victor asked. I don't know yet, but we need to find out before we make a move. If we take down Adrian, Catherine, and Kane, but miss the person funding them, we haven't won. We've just given them a chance to regroup. Victor considered. How long do you need? 24 hours, maybe less. Let me look at Kane's operation, see who he's connected to. We might not have 24 hours. If Adrian suspects we're onto him, then we need to keep him thinking he's safe, Nina interrupted. One more day. Give me that, and I'll find you everyone involved. Victor looked at Marcus, who shrugged. Your call, boss. All right, Victor said finally. One more day. But Nina, if anything happens, if they make a move, we respond immediately. No waiting. Understood. As Victor left, Marcus stayed behind. You know what you're doing? He asked Nina. No, she admitted. But I'm good at figuring things out. You better be. Because if you're wrong, people die. Nina knew. She'd known from the moment she wrote that warning on the straw wrapper. Every choice she'd made since then had led her deeper into a world where mistakes were measured in bodies. She looked at the screens showing Catherine's financial data, the web of connections spreading outward like cracks in glass. Somewhere in that web was the answer, the person pulling all the strings. She just had to find them before everything shattered. Nina didn't sleep. She couldn't afford to. Instead, she sat in front of the computer screens, tracing Richard Kane's connections like following threads through a maze. The man was careful, methodical, but money always left trails if you knew how to look. By 6 a.m., she'd mapped out his entire operation. Security contracts with 3 major corporations, all legitimate. Holdings in 2 private military companies that operated overseas. Investments in real estate, tech startups, a restaurant chain. On the surface, Kane was just another successful businessman playing in the same circles as Victor. But underneath, there were gaps. Money moving through accounts that didn't match up with reported income. Expenses that seemed inflated. And one name that kept appearing in his financial records, buried deep but there if you looked hard enough. James Torrance, Victor's attorney. Nina stared at the name on the screen, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. James had been with Victor even longer than Catherine. 20 years, according to the files. He handled contracts, negotiations, legal protection for everything Victor did, legal or otherwise. He was supposed to be untouchable. She dug deeper, found payments from one of Kane's shell companies to a law firm James had a stake in. Not direct payments to James himself, nothing that obvious. But the firm had received over $200,000 in the past year for consulting services that had no paper trail, no documentation, nothing to explain what they were actually for. Marcus, Nina called out. He'd been dozing in a chair across the room, but he was awake instantly. What is it? James Torrance. He's connected to Kane. Look at this. Marcus came over, studied the screen. His expression darkened. This doesn't necessarily mean anything. Lawyers do consulting work all the time. For $200,000 with no documentation, no contracts, no billing records, nothing? It's thin, Marcus said, but he didn't sound convinced. It's a pattern, Nina countered. Catherine pays Kane $80,000. Kane pays James's law firm $200,000. Where's James getting the money to fund all of this? Because it's not coming from Victor. I checked Victor's payments to him. They're consistent, predictable, nowhere near this level. Marcus ran a hand over his face. If James is involved, this is worse than we thought. He knows everything. Every deal, every operation, every weak point in Victor's organization. He could dismantle the whole thing from the inside. That's exactly what they're doing, Nina said. Think about it. Adrian handles security, so he knows how to get past Victor's defenses. Catherine controls the money, so she can fund the operation and make it look legitimate. And James knows the legal structure, knows how to transfer assets, knows how to make Victor's empire disappear on paper while they take it over. We need to tell Victor, now. They found him in the gym on the lower level, working through a brutal routine on the heavy bag. Sweat-soaked, focused, channeling whatever he was feeling into controlled violence. He saw them enter and stepped back, breathing hard. "What did you find?" he asked, already knowing it was bad from their expressions. Nina told him, watched his face stay carefully neutral as she laid out the evidence connecting James to Kane, to Catherine, to the whole conspiracy. When she finished, Victor just nodded. "James, we don't have definitive proof yet," Marcus said quickly. "It's circumstantial. Could be explained away." "But you don't think it can be," Victor said, looking at Nina. "No," she admitted. "The pattern's too clear. 3 people in your inner circle, all connected to Kane, all moving money through channels that don't make sense unless they're working together." Victor picked up a towel, wiped his face. His hands were steady, but Nina could see the tension in his shoulders. "James has been my attorney for 20 years. He was there when I had nothing, helped me build everything." "No," Nina said quietly. "He has keys to my houses. He's met my family. He was at my father's funeral." Victor's voice was still calm, still controlled, but something dangerous was building underneath. "And he's been planning to take it all away." "We could be wrong," Nina offered, though she didn't believe it. "You're not wrong," Victor said. "I can feel it now. The pieces fit. James always pushed me towards certain investments, certain partnerships. I thought he was looking out for me, but he was positioning things so they'd be easier to take when the time came." He threw the towel aside, walked to the window. Outside, the sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. "How do we prove it?" Victor asked. "Catherine's payments to Kane, we have those, but James is too smart to leave direct evidence. Everything runs through his law firm, perfectly legal, on paper." Nina had been thinking about this. "We need someone to break. Adrian, Catherine, or Kane. One of them talks, confirms James is involved, and we have him." "They won't talk," Marcus said. "Not willingly. They know what happens to traitors." "Then we make them unwilling," Victor said. "We bring them in, separate them, make each one think the others have already talked. Classic interrogation technique. Someone will crack." "That's risky," Nina warned. "If we grab all 3 at once and don't get the confession we need, they lawyer up and we get nothing." "So we don't grab all 3 at once," Victor said. We start with the weakest link." "Who's that?" Marcus asked. Nina considered. Adrian was a soldier, trained to resist interrogation. Catherine was calculating, wouldn't break easily. But Kane was a businessman, used to operating from a distance, letting others take the risks. "Kane," she said, "he's the middleman. He's got the most to lose and the least loyalty to the others. If we can make him think Adrian and Catherine are about to give him up, he'll talk to save himself." Victor smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then we bring in Richard Kane." The operation was planned for that night. Kane lived in a penthouse downtown, security, but not insurmountable. Victor had people who specialized in making problems disappear quietly, and they were very good at their jobs. Nina spent the day preparing, going over everything they knew about Kane, looking for pressure points. He had an ex-wife, 2 kids he barely saw, a gambling habit he thought he kept secret, and he had debts. Despite all his success, despite the money flowing through his accounts, Richard Kane was leveraged to the breaking point. "He's desperate," Nina told Victor. "That's why he's part of this. He needs a big score to get clear of his debts." "How much does he owe?" Nina pulled up the records she'd found. Conservative estimate? $3 million. Spread across casinos, private lenders, some very unpleasant people. Victor whistled. $3 million. And he thought betraying me would solve that? He probably thought taking over your operation would solve it. Your whole operation, not just a piece. Ambitious. Stupid, Marcus corrected. But we can use it. Tell him we know about his debts, that we can make them disappear, or make them much, much worse. The plan was simple. Grab Kane from his penthouse at 10 p.m. when he'd be alone. Bring him to one of Victor's secure locations and make him understand exactly how much trouble he was in. No violence if they could avoid it. Just the clear, terrifying reality of his situation. Nina asked if she could be there for the interrogation. Victor hesitated. "This part gets ugly," he said. "You don't need to see it." "I need to read him," Nina insisted. "See if he's lying, if he's holding back. You need me there." Victor studied her face. You understand this is different from watching through a camera. You'll be in the room. You'll smell his fear, see him break. It's not something you forget. I know. Do you? Nina, you're not like us. You still have a chance to stay clean from this. I stopped being clean the moment I threw that picture, Nina said. I'm already in. Let me be useful. Victor nodded slowly. All right, but you follow Marcus's lead. He says stay back, you stay back. Understood? Understood. At 9:30 p.m., Nina was in the back of an SUV with Marcus and two other men she'd been introduced to as Cole and Davis. They were professionals, quiet and efficient, the kind of people who'd done this hundreds of times. The drive to Kane's building was silent. Nina's heart was hammering, adrenaline making her hands shake. She clasped them together, tried to breathe steady. Nervous? Marcus asked quietly. Yes. Good. Means you're smart. He checked his weapon, a smooth, practiced motion. Stay behind us. Don't speak unless Victor asks you a direct question. And if shooting starts, you hit the floor. Will there be shooting? Probably not. Kane's not stupid enough to fight, but people surprise you. They parked 2 blocks away, approached the building on foot. Kane's penthouse took up the entire top floor. Security was decent, but not excessive. Marcus had already disabled the cameras remotely. They took the service elevator up, Cole picking the lock on the penthouse access in under 30 seconds. Inside the apartment was exactly what Nina expected. Expensive furniture, city views, art on the walls that probably cost more than her car. And Richard Kane, sitting in his living room with a glass of whiskey, watching the news. He looked up as they entered, and the glass slipped from his hand. Hello, Richard, Marcus said pleasantly. We need to talk. Kane stood, hands raised. Wait. Just wait. We can discuss this. Whatever you think I've done. We know what you've done, Marcus interrupted. We know about the meetings with Adrian, the payments from Catherine. The plan to take down Victor Hale. We know everything. The color drained from Kane's face. You don't understand. They came to me. I didn't... Save it for the car, Marcus said. You're coming with us. And if I refuse? Cole stepped forward and Kane flinched. You don't want to refuse, Cole said quietly. They zip-tied Kane's hands, walked him out through the service entrance to a waiting van. The whole operation took less than 10 minutes. Professional, clean. Nina felt sick watching it, but she didn't look away. The drive to the warehouse took 40 minutes. Kane sat silent, sweating, his eyes darting between his captors. Nina sat across from him, studying his body language. He was terrified, yes, but there was something else there too. Calculation. He was already trying to figure out how to survive this. The warehouse was in the industrial district, the same one Victor had taken Nina to before. But instead of the busy logistics operation, they went to a section in the back Nina hadn't seen. Concrete floors, soundproofed walls, a single chair bolted to the floor in the center of an empty room. Victor was waiting. He looked at Kane with an expression that made Nina's skin crawl. Not angry, not emotional at all. Just cold assessment, like Kane was a problem to be solved. Sit down, Richard, Victor said. They put Kane in the chair, cut the zip ties, and secured his wrists with metal restraints built into the armrests. Kane's breathing was rapid, shallow. Do you know why you're here? Victor asked. Victor, please, let me explain. I asked if you know why you're here. Kane swallowed hard. Yes, good. That saves time. Victor pulled over a second chair, sat down facing Kane. Nina stayed by the wall with Marcus, watching. You've been working with Adrian Voss and Catherine Lyle to orchestrate a takeover of my organization. You've been acting as a middleman, providing security personnel for the attempt on my life, coordinating communications, and taking payment for your services. Do I have that right? Kane said nothing. Richard, I'm going to ask again, and I need you to understand something. The only reason you're still breathing is because I want information. The moment you stop being useful, that changes. So I'll ask one more time. Do I have that right? Yes, Kane whispered. Good. Now tell me who else is involved. I don't... Oh, Victor's hand moved so fast Nina almost missed it. One moment he was sitting calmly. The next, his fist had connected with Kane's jaw with a sound like a wooden board breaking. Kane's head snapped to the side, blood spraying from his mouth. Nina flinched, forced herself to keep watching. Don't lie to me, Victor said, voice still perfectly calm. Catherine and Adrian didn't have the capital to fund this operation. Someone else is bankrolling it. Who? Kane spat blood onto the floor. If I tell you, I'm dead. You're dead anyway. Question is whether it's quick or slow, whether your kids find out what you did or whether this all stays quiet. You have leverage, Richard, but only if you use it now. Kane's eyes widened. My kids have nothing to do with this. I know, and they don't need to, but if you make me work for this information, if you waste my time, then I stop caring about collateral damage. You understand? It was a bluff. Nina was almost certain it was a bluff. Victor didn't strike her as someone who'd hurt children, but Kane didn't know that, and the fear in his eyes said he believed it completely. James, Kane said, the word coming out broken. James Torrance. He's been planning this for 2 years. Catherine came to him first, said she could control the business operations. Then James recruited Adrian for security. I came in 6 months ago to provide the muscle. Nina's breath caught. 2 years. This had been in motion for 2 years while Victor trusted them completely. Why? Victor asked. Why did they want to take me down? Because you're predictable, Kane said. James said it. You've gotten comfortable, routine. You trust the wrong people. You don't adapt. They thought they could do better, run things more efficiently, make more money. And the attack at the restaurant? That was supposed to end it. Peter Malik kills you, makes it look like a random hit, and Adrian sweeps in to secure the organization while everyone's in chaos. Catherine already had paperwork ready to transfer key assets. James had legal documents that would have given them control of everything before anyone realized what happened. Victor's expression didn't change, but his hands tightened on his knees. And when that failed, we were supposed to regroup, figure out another approach. But then you started investigating, and Adrian panicked, said you were getting too close. James told him to stay calm, but... Kane stopped, realizing he was saying too much. But what? Victor pressed. But there's a second attempt planned. Tomorrow. At the bridge. Nina's stomach dropped. What bridge? The Meridian Bridge. You have a meeting there at noon with the mayor. Public event, ribbon cutting for the new expansion. James arranged it. Said it would look innocent, keep you visible while we figured out what to do. But it's a trap. Adrian's positioning a sniper on the south tower. Soon as you step up to the podium, you're dead. Victor stood, walked to the corner of the room. Nina could see him processing, adapting. Marcus was already on his phone, probably coordinating security. Who else knows about this? Victor asked. Just us, the core group, and the sniper Adrian hired. Name? I don't know. Adrian handled that part. Victor turned back to Kane. You're going to give me everything. Every detail of the plan, every person involved, every contingency they prepared. And then you're going to help me dismantle it. And if I do that, you'll let me go? No, Victor said flatly. If you do that, you'll die quickly. That's the best deal you're getting. Kane's face crumpled. I have kids. Please. You should have thought about your kids before you tried to kill me, Victor said. Marcus, take him to holding. Get every detail documented. Nina, with me. They left Kane sobbing in the chair, walked back through the warehouse to Victor's office. Once inside, Victor finally let his control slip. He slammed his fist into the desk hard enough to make Nina jump. 2 years, he said. James has been betraying me for 2 years. We stopped it, Nina said. We know about the bridge. We can what? Cancel the meeting? Go into hiding? That's not how this works. Victor's eyes were dark, dangerous. If I don't show up tomorrow, it makes me look weak. It tells everyone I'm afraid. In this business, fear is death. So what do? I go to the meeting, Victor said, but I go prepared. And when Adrian's sniper takes his shot, we make sure he's the one who ends up dead. Nina stared at him. You're using yourself as bait. I'm turning their trap into mine. Marcus can position counter snipers. We grab the shooter before he fires, trace him back to Adrian, and we have proof. Hard proof. The kind that can't be denied or explained away. That's insane, Nina said. If your counter snipers miss, if they're not fast enough, then I die, Victor said simply. But I'm not going to hide from James and his little rebellion. I'm going to end it, completely. Nina wanted to argue, wanted to tell him there had to be another way. But she could see in his face that his mind was made up. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about sending a message. "Let me help," Nina said. "You've helped enough. Tomorrow you stay here where it's safe." "No." Victor looked at her sharply. "No? You said I'm part of this now. You said I get a voice. Well, I'm using it. I've been studying Adrian's patterns for days. I know how he thinks, how he operates. If something goes wrong tomorrow, if the plan changes, you need someone who can spot it. That's me." "Nina, you need me," she repeated. "You know you do." Victor held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Fine. But you stay in the security vehicle with Marcus. You don't go near the bridge, you don't put yourself in the line of fire." "Agreed." Marcus came back in, tablet in hand. "Kane's talking, giving us everything, and I've got teams positioning around the bridge now. By tomorrow morning, we'll have every angle covered." "Good," Victor said. "What about Adrian and Catherine?" "Under surveillance. Both of them are at their homes. No unusual movement." "Keep it that way. I don't want them spooked before tomorrow." The rest of the night was spent planning. Nina watched Victor and Marcus coordinate like a military operation, positioning people, planning contingencies, preparing for every possible scenario. She tried to contribute where she could, pointing out potential blind spots, suggesting alternatives, but mostly she just tried to keep up. Around 3 a.m., Victor sent everyone home to rest. Nina went back to her room in the safe house, lay down fully clothed, and stared at the ceiling. Sleep was impossible. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the bridge, saw Victor at the podium, saw the moment the sniper fired. She got up, went downstairs, found Victor in the kitchen, drinking coffee that had to be his 4th or 5th cup. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked. "No." She poured herself a cup, sat across from him. The kitchen was quiet, peaceful. Hard to believe that in a few hours they'd be walking into a trap. "Can I ask you something?" Nina said. "You keep asking that. The answer's always yes. Why didn't you just kill them? Adrian, Catherine, James. You know they're guilty. Why go through all this?" Victor considered his coffee. "Because killing them solves nothing if I don't understand why it happened. I need to know how they got past my defenses, what I missed. Otherwise, it happens again with someone else. And after tomorrow, after you have your proof?" "Then they die," Victor said simply. "All of them. Publicly enough that everyone understands what happens when you betray me, but quietly enough that it doesn't start a war." "Does it ever bother you, the killing?" "Every time," Victor said, and Nina believed him. "But I made my choices a long time ago. This is who I am. The question is, who are you going to be?" Nina didn't have an answer to that. A week ago, she'd been a waitress trying to keep her sister fed and safe. Now she was sitting in a criminal's kitchen, planning to help catch a sniper. "I don't know," she admitted. "Fair enough. But you'll need to figure it out soon, because after tomorrow, this gets real. No more investigation, no more theorizing, just action and consequences." He stood, rinsed his cup in the sink. "Get some rest, Nina. Tomorrow's going to be long." Nina did try to sleep after that. Managed maybe an hour before the alarm woke her at 7. She showered, dressed in clothes Marcus had provided. Dark, practical, easy to move in. When she came downstairs, the house was already buzzing with activity. Victor's people were everywhere, checking equipment, coordinating with teams at the bridge, going over the plan one more time. Marcus pulled Nina aside, handed her a vest. "Body armor," he said. "Put it on under your jacket." "I thought I was staying in the vehicle." "You are, but I don't take chances." Nina put on the vest. It was heavier than she expected, uncomfortable, but she didn't complain. At 10 a.m., they loaded into the vehicles. Victor rode separately, keeping up appearances. He'd arrive at the bridge in his regular car with his regular driver, play everything normal. Nina rode with Marcus and 3 other men in a black SUV, weapons visible, tension thick enough to cut. The drive to the bridge took 30 minutes through city traffic. Nina watched the streets roll past, normal people living normal lives, completely unaware that a few miles away, someone was preparing to commit murder. The Meridian Bridge was beautiful, a modern suspension bridge spanning the river with views of the downtown skyline. The expansion had added a pedestrian walkway, green spaces, art installations. The mayor had wanted a big public event to show it off. Victor's presence would lend credibility, show city officials and criminals alike that he was part of the community. It was perfect for an assassination. Marcus's people were already in position when they arrived. Counter snipers on the North Tower, and on two nearby buildings, spotters watching every approach, security scanning the crowd that was already gathering for the ceremony. "South Tower, third level, east side," Marcus said, pointing. "That's where we think Adrian's shooter will set up. Best sightline to the podium, covered position, easy escape route down the maintenance stairs." Nina studied the tower through binoculars. "Do we have someone there?" "Two men, positioned to intercept. Soon as the shooter reveals himself, they grab him." "What if he doesn't reveal himself? What if he sees your counter snipers and aborts?" "Then we grab him anyway. We've got thermal imaging, motion sensors, the whole setup. He's not getting away." Victor's car pulled up at 11:45. Nina watched him step out, smooth and confident, greeting the mayor like this was just another photo opportunity. She couldn't see any sign of stress, any indication he knew he was walking into a trap. The ceremony started at noon. Speeches from the mayor, from city council members, from various officials. Victor waited his turn, smiling, shaking hands, playing his role perfectly. Nina's eyes were on the South Tower. Marcus had his team's communications on speaker, and she could hear the reports coming in. "Target acquired. Male, 30s, black jacket, setting up on the east side." "Copy that. Hold position." "He's got a rifle, high-powered, scope. Definitely our guy." Nina's heart was hammering. This was really happening. Victor stepped up to the podium at 12:17. The crowd applauded. He began speaking, thanking the mayor, praising the bridge project, saying all the right things. On the tower, the sniper was lining up his shot. "Team 2, go," Marcus said quietly into his radio. Nina watched through the binoculars as two figures appeared behind the sniper. Saw the moment the sniper realized he wasn't alone. Saw him try to turn, to bring his weapon around. And then everything went wrong. The sniper fired, not at Victor, at the men behind him. 2 shots, fast and accurate. "Team 2 is down," someone shouted over the radio. "Repeat, Team 2 is down." The sniper was moving now, breaking down his rifle with practiced speed, heading for the stairs. "All units, intercept. Don't let him reach street level." But Nina wasn't watching the sniper anymore. She was watching the crowd, the way people were moving, the panic starting to spread. And she saw something that made her blood run cold. Adrian Voss standing in the crowd near the podium. His hand was inside his jacket. He was looking directly at Victor. "Marcus," Nina said urgently. "Adrian's there, in the crowd. He's armed." Marcus's head snapped around. He saw Adrian the same moment Adrian pulled his weapon. Everything happened in seconds. Marcus was already moving, shouting into his radio. Nina saw Victor turn, saw the recognition flash across his face, saw Adrian raise the gun. And Nina ran. She didn't think, didn't plan, just moved, throwing herself out of the SUV, running toward the podium faster than she'd ever run in her life. People were screaming, scattering, but she pushed through them, eyes locked on Adrian. He saw her coming, adjusted his aim. And Nina realized, with perfect clarity, that she wasn't going to make it in time. But Victor did. He moved the moment he saw Adrian's gun, diving sideways off the podium with impressive speed for a man his age. Adrian's first shot went wide, hitting the podium where Victor had been standing half a second before. Nina crashed into Adrian from the side, all her weight and momentum, just as he fired his second shot. They went down together, hard, the gun skittering across the pavement. Nina's ribs screamed where the body armor had taken the impact, but she ignored it, scrambling for the weapon. Adrian was faster. He grabbed her wrist, twisted, and Nina gasped in pain. But she'd been in fights before, had learned the hard way how to hurt someone bigger than her. She drove her knee up into his stomach, felt him fold, and smashed her elbow into his face. Blood exploded from Adrian's nose. His grip loosened, and Nina grabbed the gun. She'd never held a gun before. It was heavier than she expected, cold, deadly. She pointed it at Adrian's face, hands shaking. "Don't move," she said. Adrian looked up at her, blood streaming from his nose, something like respect in his eyes. "You're tougher than you look." "Yeah," Nina said. "I get that a lot." Then Marcus was there, and a dozen other men pulling Adrian to his feet, securing him. Nina let them take the gun, let Marcus pull her up, check her for injuries. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I think so. Victor—" "I'm fine," Victor said, appearing at her side. His suit was torn. He had a scrape on his cheek, but he was alive. "Though apparently I owe you my life again. We're going to have to discuss hazard pay." Nina wanted to laugh but couldn't quite manage it. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her shaky and nauseous. "The sniper?" Victor asked Marcus. "Got away. Took out Team 2 before we could grab him. But we've got Adrian, and he's not going anywhere." Victor looked at Adrian, who was being held between two very large men. "No, he's not." Police sirens were approaching, drawn by the gunfire. The mayor was surrounded by security, being hustled away. The crowd was chaos, people running, shouting, recording everything on their phones. "We need to go," Marcus said. "Now, before this turns into a media circus." They moved fast, getting Victor and Nina into the SUV, pulling away before the police arrived in force. Adrian went in a separate vehicle, hooded and restrained, on his way to somewhere Nina suspected wasn't on any official map. In the SUV, Nina sat next to Victor, trying to process what had just happened. She'd run into gunfire, tackled an armed man, held a weapon on another human being. Emma would definitely kill her now. "You shouldn't have done that," Victor said quietly. "Probably not. You could have been shot." "So could you." Victor looked at her, something complicated in his expression. "Why did you do it?" Nina thought about the choice she'd made, running toward danger instead of away from it. "Because you needed help. Same reason I warned you in the restaurant." "That's not much of a reason. It's the only one I have." Victor nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, thank you. Again." "You're welcome." Again. Back at the warehouse, they reconvened in Victor's office. The sniper had escaped, which was bad. But they had Adrian, which was huge. And more importantly, they had proof now. Adrian had tried to kill Victor in front of dozens of witnesses, including a dozen police officers and the mayor himself. "He's done," Marcus said, bringing up news footage on his tablet. The shooting was already all over the media. "Can't talk his way out of this one." "What about Catherine and James?" Nina asked. "Being brought in now," Marcus said, quietly. "They don't know about Adrian yet." "Good," Victor said. "Let's keep it that way. I want to see their faces when we tell them their plan failed." Nina sat back, exhausted. Her ribs ached where she'd collided with Adrian. Her wrist throbbed where he'd twisted it. But she was alive, and so was Victor, and that had to count for something. Marcus's phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. "We've got a problem," he said. "Catherine's not at her house. Neither is James. They're both gone." Victor's jaw tightened. "They ran." "Looks like it. Probably saw the news coverage, figured out the plan had failed." "How long?" "Can't have been more than an hour. They've got a head start, but not much of one." Victor stood, and Nina saw the cold calculation return to his face. "Find them. Use every resource we have. Check airports, train stations, bus terminals. They don't get to walk away from this." "What about Adrian?" Marcus asked. "Adrian's going to help us," Victor said, "whether he wants to or not." They went down to the holding room where Adrian was being kept. He was chained to the wall now, blood cleaned from his face, looking defiant despite everything. "Catherine and James ran," Victor said without preamble. "Where would they go?" Adrian smiled, teeth red. "Somewhere you'll never find them." "Wrong answer." Victor pulled over a chair, sat down. "You're going to tell me everything. Where they planned to run, what resources they had prepared, every safe house and contact. And you're going to do it because I'm offering you a choice." "What choice?" "You help me find them, and you die clean. Bullet to the head, over in a second. You refuse, and I turn you over to some people who specialize in making death take a very, very long time." Adrian's smile faded. "You won't do that." "Won't I?" Victor leaned forward. "You tried to kill me twice, Adrian. You betrayed me after 12 years of loyalty. You think there's anything I won't do to you at this point?" For the first time, Adrian looked uncertain. Nina watched the calculation happen behind his eyes, weighing his options, realizing he had none. "They're going to Mexico," Adrian said finally. "Catherine has property there, bought under a shell company. A villa outside Cabo. They were supposed to wait a week after everything was done, then disappear there permanently." "Address." Adrian gave it. Marcus was already on his phone, relaying the information to someone. "What else?" Victor pressed. "Money, documents, contacts?" "Catherine moved $50 million offshore 2 months ago. Untraceable accounts. James has new identities prepared for both of them. They'll become different people. You'll never find them. We'll see about that. Victor stood, looked down at Adrian with something like pity. You know what the saddest part is? I would have given you anything you asked for. More money, more responsibility, a bigger piece. All you had to do was ask instead of betray. You would have said no, Adrian said. You're too proud, too convinced you know best. Maybe, Victor admitted. But we'll never know now, will we? He left Adrian chained to the wall, walked out with Nina and Marcus following. How long to get people to Mexico? Victor asked. I can have a team there in 6 hours, Marcus said. But Victor, if they're smart, they won't go to the villa. It's too obvious. They'll go, Victor said, because Catherine's proud too. She spent 2 years planning this. She's not going to abandon her escape plan just because it failed. She'll convince herself she can still make it work. Nina hoped he was right, because if Catherine and James disappeared, this would never really be over. There'd always be the threat of them returning, trying again, destabilizing everything Victor had built. They spent the rest of the day coordinating. Victor's people in Mexico confirmed the villa existed, was registered to one of Catherine's shell companies. Surveillance showed no activity yet, but Marcus positioned teams around it anyway, ready to move the moment Catherine and James arrived. Nina sat in Victor's office, watching it all unfold, and wondered how her life had become this, tracking fugitives across international borders, helping plan captures and interrogations. A week ago, her biggest concern had been making rent. You okay? Victor asked, noticing her expression. I don't know, Nina admitted. This is a lot. It is. And I know I keep saying this, but you can still walk away. After we finish with Catherine and James, you take your 50,000 and disappear. New life. Like we agreed. Nina thought about that. About walking away, going back to normal. Except what was normal now? Could she really go back to serving tables, pretending none of this had happened? Can I ask you something else? She said. Always. What happens to me if I stay? I mean, really stay. Not just until this is over, but after. What would that look like? Victor sat down across from her. That depends on what you want. I could use someone like you. Someone who sees things others miss, who can think 3 steps ahead. You could work for me, officially. Security consulting, threat assessment, whatever title makes you comfortable. Working for a crime lord. Working for someone who pays well and protects his people, Victor corrected. But yes, essentially. It's not a clean life, Nina. It's dangerous, morally complicated, and there's no going back once you're really in. But it's also honest, Nina suggested. In a weird way? I was going to say purposeful. In my world, loyalty means something. Actions have consequences. It's not like the regular world where people lie and cheat and face no repercussions. Here, everything is very real. Nina understood what he meant. There was a clarity to Victor's world. Brutal, yes, but clear. Before she could respond, Marcus burst in. They're at the villa, he said. Catherine and James just arrived. Our team has eyes on them. Victor was on his feet immediately. Tell them to wait for my signal. I want them taken alive if possible. And if not possible? Then make sure there's no evidence left behind. Mexico doesn't need to know this happened. Marcus made the call. Nina watched the operation unfold on the monitors in Victor's office. Satellite feeds showing the villa, thermal imaging showing 2 figures inside. This is it, Victor said quietly. End of the line for them. On the screen, Nina watched Victor's team move into position. 6 men, heavily armed, coordinating with military precision. They breached the villa from 2 sides simultaneously, fast and overwhelming. The whole thing was over in 90 seconds. Catherine and James were secured, bound, being dragged to waiting vehicles. No shots fired. Clean extraction. Got them, Marcus confirmed. En route to the airstrip now. They'll be back here in 8 hours. Victor nodded, but there was no satisfaction in his expression, just weariness. Good. Then we finish this. Nina looked at him. What does finishing it mean? It means a trial, Victor said. My kind of trial. Where everyone involved faces judgment for what they did. And then? And then they pay the price. All of them. Together. The finality in his voice left no room for interpretation. Nina knew what he meant. In 8 hours, Catherine Lyle and James Torrance would be dead, along with Adrian Voss and Richard Kane. A clean sweep. Message sent. and Nina would be there to witness it all. The 8 hours waiting for Catherine and James to arrive felt longer than the entire week before it. Nina tried to rest, tried to eat the food Marcus brought her, but everything tasted like cardboard. Her mind kept circling back to what was coming, what she was about to witness. She'd seen violence before, lived with it for years. But this was different. This was calculated, premeditated. Justice, Victor called it, but Nina wasn't sure that's what it was. Revenge, maybe. Necessity, probably. But justice felt like too clean a word for what was about to happen. Around hour 5, Emma called. Nina almost didn't answer, but guilt won out. "Hey," she said, trying to sound normal. "Don't hey me," Emma said. "You've been all over the news. There was a shooting at the bridge today, and you were there. I saw the footage. Someone who looks exactly like you tackled a guy with a gun." Nina's stomach sank. "Emma, are you insane? Are you actually insane? What are you doing?" "I can't explain right now." "You keep saying that. You keep saying you can't explain, you need me to trust you, everything's fine. But clearly everything's not fine because you're tackling armed men on bridges." Nina closed her eyes. Emma deserved better than this. Deserved honesty, or at least something close to it. "You're right," Nina said. "I'm sorry. I got involved in something complicated and it's almost over, and then I'll explain everything. I promise." "When is almost over?" "Tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Soon." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Are you safe right now?" "Yes." "Are you lying to me?" Nina thought about the truth, about the fact that she was sitting in a crime lord's safe house waiting for prisoners to arrive so they could be executed, about how far she'd fallen into this world in just a week. "No," she lied. "I'm safe. I'm with people who are keeping me safe." "Okay," Emma said, but she sounded uncertain. "Nina, whatever this is, just come home after. Please, I don't care what you did or who you're with, just come home." "I will. I love you." "Love you too. Be careful." After Emma hung up, Nina sat with her phone in her hand, staring at the black screen. She could still do what Emma asked, take the 50,000, disappear, go back to being nobody. Victor had offered her that out multiple times. But the truth was, she didn't want to take it. Something had shifted in her over the past week. She'd remembered what it felt like to be useful, to be seen, to matter in a way that went beyond just surviving day to day. Victor found her in the kitchen around hour 7, making coffee she didn't want just to have something to do with her hands. "You're thinking too much," he said. "Probably." He poured himself a cup, leaned against the counter. He looked tired. Actually tired, not just stressed. Nina realized she'd never seen him this way before, without the careful control firmly in place. "Are you okay?" she asked. Victor laughed, but there was no humor in it. 20 years I trusted James. 15 years I trusted Catherine. And 12 years with Adrian. That's 47 years of cumulative loyalty that turned out to be worthless. So no, I'm not okay. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm the one who missed it. I'm the one who let my guard down. He took a long drink of coffee. You know what the worst part is? I keep thinking about all the times they were right there. All the opportunities they had to just talk to me, to say they wanted more, wanted different, wanted out. I would have listened. Would you have? Victor met her eyes. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they were right to think I wouldn't change. But they didn't even try. They went straight to betrayal. Nina understood that hurt. The feeling of not even being given a chance to do better. What happens after tonight, she asked. After they're gone. What changes? Everything, Victor said. I'll have to rebuild my inner circle from scratch. Find people I can trust, which feels impossible right now. Restructure the organization so this can't happen again. You could just walk away. Retire. You have enough money. I have enough money, yes. But this isn't about money. It never was. Victor set down his cup. This is about building something that lasts, something with rules and structure and meaning. Walking away means letting it all fall apart, and I can't do that. Even if it costs you everything? Everything's already been taken, Victor said quietly. I just have to make sure no one thinks they can take more. Marcus appeared in the doorway. They're 10 minutes out. The shift in Victor was immediate. The weariness vanished, replaced by cold focus. He straightened, rolled his shoulders, and when he looked at Marcus, he was all business again. Prep the room. I want all 4 of them together. Let them see each other. Let them understand what unified betrayal gets them. Already done, Marcus said. Nina, you sure you want to be there for this? Nina wasn't sure, but she nodded anyway. Yes, then stay close to me. Don't interfere no matter what happens. They went down to the warehouse level, to a section Nina hadn't seen before. The room was larger than the one they'd kept Kane in, with 4 chairs arranged in a line, all facing a single chair across from them. Industrial lighting hung overhead, casting harsh shadows. Adrian was brought in first, still bloody from his capture at the bridge. Then Kane, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past 24 hours. They were chained to their chairs, wrists and ankles secured. Then Catherine and James arrived, dragged in by Victor's men. Catherine looked furious, fighting against her restraints. James looked resigned, like he'd known this was coming. They were positioned in the chairs, locked down. The 4 of them, side by side, staring at Victor as he entered the room. The silence was absolute. Victor walked slowly in front of them, studying each face. Nina stayed by the wall with Marcus, watching. I want to understand, Victor said finally. Before we end this, I want to understand why. What did I do that made all of you think betrayal was the only answer? No one spoke. James, Victor said. You first. 20 years. What changed? James looked at him steadily. You did. You got comfortable, Victor. Stopped adapting. Started making decisions based on sentiment instead of strategy. I watched you turn down profitable opportunities because they didn't align with your principles, whatever those are. You had the chance to become truly powerful, and you chose to stay small. Small, Victor repeated. I control half this city. And you could have controlled all of it, James said, with the right moves. But you cared too much about how it looked, about maintaining appearances, about being the good criminal. He laughed, bitter. There's no such thing, Victor. You're either all in or you're playing pretend. You chose pretend. Victor absorbed that, turned to Catherine. And you? What's your reason? Catherine's fury had cooled into something harder. I built your legitimate empire, every successful business, every clean transaction, every respectable partnership. I did that. And what did I get? A salary. A pat on the head. While you kept all the power, all the final decisions, I was good enough to do the work, but not good enough to have a real voice. You had a voice, Victor said. I listened to you. No, you humored me. There's a difference. Every time I suggested we expand, restructure, modernize, you found reasons to say no. You were content with what we had. I wasn't. Victor looked at Adrian. Let me guess. You thought you could do better? I know I could have done better, Adrian said. Your security is a joke, Victor. It's built on loyalty and trust, which are the weakest foundations in this business. Real security is built on fear and systems, but you never let me implement real protocols because you didn't want to alienate the people. Well, your people almost got you killed. They did get me almost killed, Victor corrected. You and your incompetent attack at the restaurant. That wasn't incompetence, Adrian shot back. That was bad luck. If the waitress hadn't noticed... He stopped, glancing at Nina. Victor smiled. Ah, yes, if Nina hadn't noticed. But she did, because unlike all of you, she actually paid attention. He turned to Kane. And you? What's your excuse? I needed the money, Kane said flatly. No grand philosophy, no wounded pride. Just $3 million in debts that were going to get me killed. James offered me a way out. I took it. Honest, at least, Victor said. He walked back to his chair, sat down facing them. So let me see if I understand. James thinks I'm not ambitious enough. Catherine thinks I don't respect her. Adrian thinks my security is too soft. And Kane needed money. Those are your reasons for trying to kill me and take everything I've built. When you say it like that, it sounds petty, Catherine said. Because it is petty, Victor replied. James, you could have left any time, started your own operation, taken your knowledge and connections and built something new. Catherine, same. You had options. You chose betrayal instead. We chose efficiency, James said. Why start from scratch when we could take what already existed? Because that's how this works, Victor said, and for the first time Nina heard real anger in his voice. You build your own. You earn it. You don't steal from the people who trusted you. Trust is for fools, James said. Then I'm a fool, Victor agreed. But I'm a fool who's still alive, still in power. while you four are chained to chairs waiting to die. So maybe trust isn't as weak as you think. He stood. I'm going to give you all one chance. One. Tell me who else is involved. Anyone I haven't found yet, anyone who helped you, anyone who knew. You give me names, and I make this quick. You stay silent, and Marcus gets creative. Nina saw Marcus's expression, saw the promise there. She didn't want to know what creative meant. There's no one else, Catherine said. Just us four. We kept it tight, specifically to avoid leaks. The sniper, Victor said. The one who got away. Who is he? Freelancer, Adrian said. Hired through encrypted channels. I never met him in person. Don't even know his real name. Victor looked at Marcus. True? We traced the communications, Marcus confirmed. Goes through too many proxy servers to follow. Could be true. So he's out there. Somewhere. Knowing he failed. Victor looked back at Adrian. That bother you? That you hired someone incompetent? He wasn't incompetent, Adrian said. He took out your counter snipers. If I hadn't panicked, if I'd stuck to the plan and waited, he might have gotten you on the second attempt. But you did panic. And now you're here. Victor paced in front of them, and Nina could see him thinking, processing. Then he stopped. Here's what's going to happen, he said. You're all going to die tonight. That's not negotiable. But you get to choose how much you suffer first. Answer my questions completely and honestly, and it's quick. Lie to me, and Marcus makes it last days. What questions? James asked. Everything, every detail of your plan, every contingency you prepared, every asset you moved, every person you talked to. I want to know exactly how close you came to winning and exactly what I need to fix to make sure it never happens again. And if we refuse? Catherine asked. Then you die screaming, Victor said simply. Your choice. The interrogation lasted 3 hours. Victor was methodical, patient, pulling information piece by piece. Nina watched the four of them break in different ways. Kane broke first, spilling everything he knew. Adrian lasted longer, but eventually cracked when Marcus started describing what would happen if he didn't cooperate. Catherine held out the longest, defiant until Victor mentioned that her daughter, a daughter Nina hadn't known existed, might be interested to know what her mother had been doing. That broke her. Catherine told Victor everything, the offshore accounts, the safe houses, the backup plans, all of it. James was the only one who stayed silent. He just sat there, watching Victor with something like contempt. Nothing, Victor asked finally. After 20 years, you have nothing to say? I have plenty to say, James replied, but none of it would matter to you. You've already decided who you are and what this means. Nothing I say will change that. Try me. James leaned forward as much as his restraints allowed. You think you're different from the rest of us, better, more honorable. But you're not, Victor. You're just another criminal who got lucky and convinced yourself it meant something. That's all any of us are. The only difference is I was honest about it. You were honest about nothing, Victor said coldly. You spent 2 decades lying to my face. I spent 2 decades building your empire while you played at being important. And when I decided I wanted something for myself, I took it, or tried to. That's more honest than pretending loyalty means anything in this business. Victor stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded to Marcus. We're done here. Finish it. Marcus pulled out his weapon. Catherine started crying. Kane was shaking so hard his chair rattled. Adrian closed his eyes. James just kept staring at Victor. You think this changes anything, James said. But it doesn't. You'll find new people to trust, and eventually they'll betray you too. Because that's what people do, Victor. We take. It's our nature. Maybe, Victor said, but at least I'll see it coming next time. He walked toward the door, gestured for Nina to follow. She did, her legs feeling disconnected from her body. Behind them, she heard Marcus's voice, calm and professional. Any last words? Nina didn't hear the responses. Didn't hear the gunshots either, because Victor pulled the door closed before Marcus fired. But she felt them. Felt the finality of it. 4 people who'd been alive moments ago were now gone. Erased. In the hallway, Victor leaned against the wall, eyes closed. Are you okay? Nina asked. No, he said, but I will be. Do you regret it? Killing them? No. They made their choice, but I regret that it was necessary. I regret that I didn't see it coming sooner. He opened his eyes. I regret that in this world, trust always ends badly. Nina didn't have an answer for that. She was trying to process what she'd just witnessed, trying to figure out how she felt about it. Horrified seemed like the right reaction, but mostly she just felt numb. Marcus emerged from the room, weapon holstered. "It's done. Clean. Quick." "Disposal?" Victor asked. "Already handled. They'll be gone by morning. No trace." Victor nodded. "Good. Thank you, Marcus." "Boss," Marcus said, then left them alone in the hallway. Nina and Victor stood there in silence. Above them, the warehouse continued operating, normal people doing normal work, completely unaware that 4 people had just been executed 1 floor down. "You should go home," Victor said. "See your sister. Sleep in your own bed. Take a few days to think about what you want." "What about the 50,000? "Already in your account. I had Marcus transfer it this morning." Nina checked her phone. Sure enough, there was a notification. $50,000, just like Victor promised. Enough to change everything. "And if I want to come back?" she asked. Victor looked at her carefully. "Then you come back. But Nina, be very sure. What you saw tonight, that's the reality of this world. It doesn't get cleaner. It doesn't get easier. If anything, it gets worse." "I know." "Do you? Because you've had a hell of a week and you're running on adrenaline and shock. Go home. Process this. And then decide." He was right. Nina knew he was right. But part of her was afraid that if she left now, she'd lose her nerve, that the numbness would wear off and she'd see clearly what she'd become part of, and she wouldn't be able to come back. "Okay," she said. "I'll go home. But Victor, thank you for keeping Emma safe, for keeping me safe." "You kept me safe first," Victor reminded her. "We're even." Marcus drove her home. The sun was rising as they pulled up to her apartment building, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Nina looked up at her window, 3rd floor, corner unit, and tried to remember the person who'd lived there a week ago, that Nina felt like a stranger now. "You need anything, you call," Marcus said, handing her a card with a phone number. "Doesn't matter what time, you call, we answer." "Thank you." Inside, the apartment was exactly as she'd left it, Emma's backpack by the door, dishes in the sink, the normal chaos of their life together. Emma was asleep in the bedroom they shared, curled up under blankets, headphones still on. Nina stood in the doorway watching her sister sleep. Emma looked so young like this. Still a kid, really, despite the attitude and the independence. Nina had spent 6 years protecting her, keeping her safe from everything their childhood had thrown at them. And now Nina had $50,000 in her bank account because she'd helped a crime lord hunt down traitors. She sat on the edge of Emma's bed, gently pulled off the headphones. Emma stirred, blinked awake. "Nina?" She sat up fast. "You're home. Are you okay? What happened?" "I'm okay," Nina said. "Everything's okay now." Emma looked at her closely. "You look different." "Do I?" "Yeah. Older or something, like you've been awake for a week." "Feels that way," Nina admitted. Emma hugged her, fierce and tight. "Don't do that again. Don't disappear like that. I was so scared." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." They stayed like that for a long moment. Then Emma pulled back. "Okay, now, you have to tell me everything, and I mean everything. Who were those people? Why were you at the bridge? And don't you dare say you can't explain, because that's not going to work anymore." Nina took a breath. "I helped someone important, and that person paid me a lot of money to keep helping them. $50,000. Emma's eyes went wide. $50,000? Are you serious? Check the account. Emma grabbed Nina's phone, pulled up the banking app, stared at the number. Holy shit! Nina, holy shit! I know. Is this legal? The money is. How I earned it is complicated. Emma set down the phone. How complicated? Very. But Emma, listen. That money? It's yours. College, wherever you want to go. Full tuition, room and board, everything. You don't have to worry about scholarships or loans or working 3 jobs like I did. Emma was quiet, processing. What did you have to do? To get this money? Nina thought about how to explain it. About the violence and the betrayal and the executions. About the person she'd become over the past week. I helped stop some bad people from doing bad things, she said finally, and I'm probably going to keep doing it, if you're okay with that. Keep doing it? Nina, what are you talking about? The person who paid me offered me a job, Real job, not just temporary. Good money, but it's dangerous and complicated, and not exactly legal. Emma stared at her. Are you working for a criminal? Yes, Nina said. No point lying about it. And you're going to keep working for them? I think so. If you're okay with it. Emma stood up, paced the small room. I don't know if I'm okay with it. I don't know what to think. A week ago, you were a waitress. Now you're tackling gunmen and working for criminals, and we have $50,000 in the bank. I know it's a lot. It's insane, Emma said. But Nina, you've been taking care of me my whole life. You've sacrificed everything for me. So if you want to do this, if this is what you need, then okay. I'm okay with it. You are. I'm not happy about it, and I'm going to worry constantly. But yeah, I'm okay with it. Emma sat back down. Just promise me you'll be careful and that you'll come home. No matter what happens, you come home. I promise, Nina said. They spent the rest of the morning together, just being normal, making breakfast, watching TV. Emma told her about school, about the chemistry teacher she hated, about the college application she was working on. Nina listened, trying to hold on to this moment, this normalcy. But even as she sat there, part of her mind was already back at the warehouse, already thinking about Victor's offer, about the work she could do, the difference she could make. That evening, after Emma went to bed, Nina sat at the kitchen table with her phone, pulled up the number Marcus had given her, stared at it for a long time. Then she sent a text. I want to come back. The response was almost immediate. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., same safe house. Nina set down the phone, looked around her apartment. This was still her home. Emma was still her priority. But she had another life now too, another purpose. She'd spent years being invisible, being the person no one noticed. But Victor had seen her, had valued her, had shown her that the instincts she'd honed just to survive could be used for something more. Tomorrow, she'd go back. She'd learned the business properly. She'd become the person Victor thought she could be. But tonight, she was just Nina. Big sister, survivor. The girl who'd thrown a pitcher at a gunman because it was the right thing to do. She could live with that. The next morning, Nina was up early. She left Emma a note saying she'd be home for dinner, grabbed the clothes Marcus had bought her, and caught a cab to the safe house. Victor was waiting in his office, looking more rested than the last time she'd seen him. Marcus was there too, along with two other people Nina didn't recognize. Nina, Victor said, smiling. You came back. I said I would. I know, but I wasn't sure you meant it. He gestured to the others. This is Sarah Chen, my new head of security, and Thomas Reeves, who will be handling business operations. You've met Marcus. The four of you will be my inner circle going forward. Nina shook hands with Sarah and Thomas. Sarah was in her 40s, former military, if Nina had to guess. Thomas was younger, maybe 30, with the careful eyes of someone who'd survived by being smart. Welcome to the team, Sarah said. Victor's told us about you. Impressive work at the bridge. I just reacted, Nina said. That's what makes it impressive. Most people freeze. You moved. They spent the next hour going over the new structure. Victor had restructured everything, breaking up responsibilities so no one person had too much power. Sarah handled security. Thomas handled legitimate business. Marcus coordinated between them and handled enforcement. And Nina would do what she did best. Observe, analyze, find the patterns no one else saw. We're calling you our threat assessment specialist, Victor said. Officially, which means you look at everything we do and tell me where the weaknesses are, where someone could exploit us, where we're vulnerable. That's a lot of responsibility, Nina said. You can handle it. You've already proven that. Over the following weeks, Nina learned the business. The real business, not just the crisis management she'd been doing. She learned about the legitimate operations, the gray areas, and yes, the illegal parts too. She learned how money flowed, how power worked, how deals were made and enforced. It was complicated and dangerous and sometimes deeply unethical, but it was also fascinating. Victor ran his organization like a corporation, complete with hierarchies and protocols and performance reviews, just with higher stakes than most corporations dealt with. Nina was good at it, better than she'd expected. She found vulnerabilities in their operations and proposed solutions. She identified potential traitors before they became problems. She helped Victor rebuild the trust that had been shattered when his inner circle betrayed him. And slowly, carefully, she built a new life. One where she mattered, where her instincts and observations made a difference, where she was seen and valued and paid well for her work. Emma adjusted. She didn't love it, but she accepted it. Especially when Nina came home with brochures from colleges Emma had only dreamed about attending. When the acceptance letters started arriving, with full ride offers thanks to Nina's suddenly improved financial situation. 6 months after that night at the restaurant, Nina stood in Victor's office looking at a threat assessment she'd prepared. It outlined 3 potential problems in their operation, complete with suggested solutions. Victor read it carefully, then looked up at her. "This is good work." "Thank you. You've come a long way from throwing pitchers at gunmen." Nina smiled. "I don't know. The pitcher thing worked pretty well." "It did," Victor agreed. "Nina, I want to ask you something. Are you happy? With this life, I mean. With what you're doing?" Nina thought about it. Happiness felt like too simple a word for what she felt. But satisfied? Purposeful? "Yes, I am," she said. "It's not what I expected my life to be. But it's mine. I chose it. And that means something." "It does," Victor said. "More than you know." He stood, walked to the window. Outside, the city stretched endlessly. The same city Nina had grown up in, fought to survive in, and now helped control from the shadows. "I told you once that trust is rare in this business," Victor said. "I meant it. But you've earned mine, Nina, completely. Whatever comes next, I know you'll be ready for it." "Whatever comes next," Nina repeated. "That sounds ominous." "It's just realistic. There's always something next, someone who thinks they can do better, some new threat, some new challenge. That's the life we chose." "Then I guess we'd better be ready," Nina said. Victor turned back to her, and there was something in his expression Nina had never seen before. Pride, maybe? Or respect? Or just recognition that she was no longer the scared waitress who'd written a warning on a straw wrapper. She was someone else now, someone stronger, someone dangerous in her own right, and she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The following months brought challenges, as Victor had predicted. Rival organizations testing their strength, internal disputes that needed resolution, constant vigilance to prevent another betrayal from taking root. But Nina was ready for all of it. She'd learned from the best, after all, and she'd survived too much to be taken down by anything less than extraordinary. Sometimes late at night when she couldn't sleep, she'd think about that moment in the restaurant, the split second when she'd decided to write that warning instead of walking away. How different her life would be if she'd made a different choice. But she never regretted it, not once, because that choice had led her here, to purpose, to power, to a place where she finally mattered, and that was worth every risk she'd taken to get there. The 9th month marked a turning point Nina hadn't anticipated. She was reviewing security footage from one of Victor's downtown properties when she noticed something that made her pause the video and rewind. A man in the lobby, waiting. Nothing obviously suspicious. He sat, checked his phone, looked around casually. But his eyes kept returning to the elevator banks in a pattern that felt deliberate. She ran facial recognition. Nothing came back. The man was a ghost in their system, which meant either he was nobody or he was very good at being nobody. Nina had learned to be suspicious of ghosts. She called Marcus. "I need you to look at something." 20 minutes later, they were both staring at the footage. "Could be nothing," Marcus said. "Could be someone waiting for an appointment." "For 43 minutes? Without checking in at the desk?" Marcus rewound the footage. "You're right. That's wrong. I'll put eyes on the building, see if he comes back." He did come back. 3 times over the next week. Always different times of day. Always the same pattern. Watching, learning. Nina brought it to Victor during their weekly briefing. "We have a problem. Someone's casing the Meridian building." Victor looked at the compiled footage she'd prepared. "You think it's another attempt?" "I think someone's preparing for something. Whether it's another attempt on you or just intelligence gathering, I don't know. But we need to find out who he is." "Grab him," Victor said. "Next time he shows up, bring him in. Carefully. I want to know who sent him." The man appeared again 2 days later. This time, Marcus's team was ready. They took him in the parking garage, quick and quiet, before he knew what was happening. By the time Nina arrived at the warehouse, he was already secured in the interrogation room. He was younger than he'd looked on camera, maybe 25, scared but trying to hide it. Nina watched through the one-way glass as Victor entered the room. "What's your name?" Victor asked. The man said nothing. "I can find out anyway. This just determines how much you suffer first." "Michael," the man said finally. "Michael Torres." "Who sent you, Michael Torres?" "Nobody sent me. I was just—" Victor held up a hand. "Don't. We've been watching you for 2 weeks. We know you've been casing my building. We know you're working for someone. So let's skip the part where you lie badly and get to the part where you tell me what I want to know." Michael's jaw tightened. "You killed my brother, Kyle Brennan." The name hit Nina like a physical blow. Kyle. The young man they'd interrogated after the restaurant attack. The one who'd given up Adrian's name. The one Victor had promised would die quickly if he cooperated. "Your brother tried to kill me," Victor said. "He made a choice. He paid the price." "He was stupid," Michael said. "He was desperate and stupid, and Adrian Voss took advantage of that. But you didn't have to kill him. You could have let him go. He told you everything." "I could have," Victor agreed, "but I didn't. And now you're here for revenge. Is that it?" "I'm here to understand why," Michael said. "Why my brother had to die. Why you get to decide who lives and who doesn't. Why people like you get away with everything while people like Kyle get buried in unmarked graves." Nina felt something twist in her chest. She remembered Kyle in that interrogation room, scared and young and realizing too late what he'd gotten into. She'd felt bad for him then. She felt worse now, looking at his brother. "Marcus," she said quietly, "don't kill him." Marcus looked at her. "That's not your call." "I know, but I'm asking anyway." In the interrogation room, Victor was studying Michael. "You came here unarmed, no weapon, no plan. You weren't going to kill me. You were just going to watch." "I wanted to see you," Michael said. "The man who killed my brother. I wanted to understand what makes you think you're better than him." "I don't think I'm better than him," Victor said. "I think I'm more powerful. There's a difference." "Is there?" Victor stood. "Your brother made a choice to attack me. He knew the risks, just like you made a choice to come here. The question is, what happens next?" He walked to the door, gestured to Marcus. They stepped out into the hallway where Nina was waiting. "He's not a threat," Nina said immediately. "He's grieving. He came here to understand, not to attack." "He's a liability," Marcus said. "He knows our faces, knows this location. We can't just let him walk." "We can," Nina insisted. "We let him go with a warning. We show him that we're not monsters, that we can choose mercy." Victor looked at her carefully. "Why does this matter to you?" "Because Kyle mattered to me," Nina said. "I sat across from him. I saw how scared he was. And we killed him anyway because that's what we do. But we don't have to keep doing it. We don't have to kill every person who crosses our path. In this business, we're supposed to be better than our enemies," Nina interrupted. "You said it yourself. You're not cruel because you're scared. You're fair. You keep your word, so keep it now. Kyle cooperated. We gave him a quick death. That was the deal. Michael didn't make any deal. He didn't attack us. He's just a kid trying to understand why his brother's dead." Victor was quiet for a long moment. "If we let him go and he comes back with police, with media, with any kind of trouble, then we deal with it," Nina said. "But I don't think he will. I think he came here looking for a monster and found a human being instead. That might actually mean something." Marcus shook his head. "This is a mistake." "Maybe," Victor said, "but it's my mistake to make." He looked at Nina. "All right, we let him go. But you talk to him first. Make him understand what happens if he makes this a problem." Nina went into the interrogation room alone. Michael looked up at her confused. "Who are you?" he asked. "Someone who tried to save your brother," Nina said, sitting down across from him. "I'm the one who convinced Victor to make the interrogation quick, to not torture Kyle for information. I wanted you to know that." Michael's expression cracked slightly. "They told me he disappeared, that they found his car abandoned but no body. I knew what that meant. I just didn't know who was responsible until I started asking questions." "How did you find us?" "Adrian Voss's name came up. I tracked his connections, followed the money, eventually found this place." Michael looked around the room. "Is this where it happened, where my brother died?" "No," Nina said. "Different room, but yes, Here. Did he suffer? Nina thought about lying, decided against it. No, it was fast. Victor kept his word about that. His word? Michael laughed bitterly. Like that means something. It does. In this world, it's one of the few things that means anything. Nina leaned forward. Michael, I understand you're angry. I understand you want someone to blame. But coming here, trying to understand, that's not going to bring Kyle back. It's just going to get you killed, too. Maybe that's fine, Michael said. Maybe I don't care anymore. Yes, you do. If you didn't care, you would have come with a gun. You would have tried to kill Victor instead of just watching him. You're here because you want to live. You want to understand so you can figure out how to keep living with what happened. Michael's eyes filled with tears. He was my only family. Our parents died when we were kids. It was just us. And now it's just me. Nina understood that feeling. The weight of being the one left behind, the responsibility, the loneliness. I'm going to let you go, she said. Against my colleagues' advice, against every rule of this business. I'm going to let you walk out of here, but you need to understand something. If you go to the police, if you talk to anyone about this, if you come back here again, there won't be a second chance. Do you understand? Michael wiped his eyes. Why would you let me go? Because your brother's death is on me too, Nina said. I helped interrogate him. I helped Victor find the traitors. And because I think you deserve a chance to have a different life than Kyle did. But you have to take it. You have to walk away and stay away. What if I can't? Then you'll die, Nina said simply. And that won't honor your brother's memory. That'll just be another waste. She stood, walked to the door, stopped. For what it's worth, I am sorry. About Kyle. About all of it. Marcus was waiting outside with 2 men. Take him 10 miles from here and drop him off. Give him $500 cash and a burner phone. If he calls within 48 hours, we answer. After that, we're done. The men led Michael away. Marcus looked at Nina. You're getting soft, he said. Maybe. Or maybe I'm remembering that we're supposed to be human beings. Human beings in our business don't last long. Then maybe we need to change the business, Nina said. She went to find Victor. He was in his office reviewing documents, but he looked up when she entered. Is it done? He asked. He's gone. We'll see if he comes back. And if he does? Then you were right and I was wrong. But I don't think he will. Victor set down his papers. Nina, you're one of the best people I have. Your instincts are sharp. Your analysis is always thorough. But you need to understand something. Mercy is expensive in this world. Every person we let go is a potential problem later. I know, but the alternative is we kill everyone who crosses us, and eventually we become the monsters everyone thinks we are. We already are monsters, Victor said. We just choose how obvious we want to be about it. Nina shook her head. I don't believe that. I've seen you be generous. I've seen you help people. You funded that community center in Fletcher Heights. You paid for Marcus's sister's medical bills. You're not just a monster. Those are calculated moves, Victor said. Goodwill in the community. Loyalty from my people. Maybe. Or maybe they're signs that you actually care. That you're capable of more than just survival. Victor smiled slightly. You sound like you're trying to save my soul. I'm trying to save both of ours, Nina said. Over the following weeks, Nina thought about Michael often. Wondered if he'd taken her advice, if he'd moved on, if he was building a life somewhere far from this world. She'd given him a chance. That had to mean something. The organization stabilized. Sarah's new security protocols were working, airtight systems that didn't rely on blind trust. Thomas's business operations were profitable, expanding Victor's legitimate empire. And Marcus remained the steady enforcer, handling problems with efficiency. Nina's role evolved too. She wasn't just assessing threats anymore. Victor had started asking her opinion on larger decisions, expansion plans, partnership proposals, whether to enter new markets or consolidate existing ones. You have good judgment, he told her. Better than most people who've been doing this for decades. I trust your read on situations. Trust, the word that had caused so much damage before. But Nina was learning that trust wasn't the problem. Blind trust was. Trust earned and verified, trust with checks and balances that could work. Emma graduated high school that spring with honors. Nina sat in the audience, watching her sister accept awards and scholarships, and felt a complicated mix of pride and guilt. She'd made this possible. The money, the opportunities, the future Emma deserved. But she'd done it by becoming someone her younger self would have been terrified of. After the ceremony, Emma found her in the crowd. "You came," Emma said, surprised. "Of course I came. I wouldn't miss this." Emma hugged her. "Thank you for everything. I know it wasn't easy." "You were worth it," Nina said, and meant it. That night, at a dinner celebrating Emma's graduation, Emma asked the question Nina had been dreading. "Are you happy, Nina? Really happy?" Nina considered the question carefully. "I'm satisfied. I'm purposeful. I matter in ways I never did before." "That's not the same as happy." "No," Nina admitted, "but it's enough." "Is it?" Emma pushed her food around her plate. "Because you look tired all the time, and you're always checking your phone. And sometimes I catch you staring off into space like you're somewhere else entirely." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're different. And I know I said I was okay with your job, and I am, mostly. But Nina, I worry about you. I worry that one day you won't come home." Nina reached across the table, took Emma's hand. "I'll always come home, no matter what." "Promise?" "Promise." But even as she said it, Nina knew it was a promise she might not be able to keep. Every day in Victor's world carried risk. Every decision could be the wrong one. Every enemy could be the one who finally got lucky. The test came 3 months later. Nina was reviewing intelligence reports when she found it. A pattern she'd almost missed. Money moving through shell companies that connected to a name she recognized. Michael Torres. He hadn't stayed away. He'd gone deeper. She pulled everything she could find. Michael had been busy. He'd connected with a federal task force investigating organized crime. Not as an informant officially, but providing information, pointing them toward Victor's operations. Nina's heart sank. She'd given him a chance, and he'd used it to try to take them down. She brought it to Victor immediately. "I was wrong," she said, laying out the evidence. "Michael Torres, he's been feeding information to the feds. I should have listened to Marcus." Victor studied the reports. "How much does he know?" "Enough to be dangerous. He knows about this location, knows our faces, knows the general structure. If the task force acts on his information, they could cause real damage." "Then we stop him," Victor said. "Marcus—" "Wait," Nina interrupted. "Let me try something first. Nina, he betrayed us. There's no trying anything. There's just consequences. Give me 48 hours. If I can't fix this, then Marcus handles it his way." Victor looked at her for a long moment. "Why do you keep trying to save people who don't deserve it?" "Because someone has to," Nina said. "And because I still think Michael isn't doing this for revenge. He's doing it because he thinks he's fighting evil. Let me show him he's wrong." "You have 48 hours, Victor said. "After that, this ends." Nina used her contacts to find Michael. He was living in a different part of the city, working construction, trying to blend in. She showed up at his apartment unannounced. Michael opened the door, saw her, and went pale. "How did you find me?" "The same way I find everyone. Can I come in?" He hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment was small, sparse, temporary, like Michael was ready to run at any moment. "You went to the feds," Nina said, "after I let you go. After I gave you a chance." "You murdered my brother," Michael said. "What did you expect?" "I expected you to value your life enough to stay away. But you didn't. You went looking for revenge, and now you've put yourself in danger again." "I'm not afraid of you." "You should be," Nina said, "but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to make you understand something. You think you're fighting evil by helping the task force. You think taking down Victor Hale will make the city better, but you're wrong." "How am I wrong? He kills people. He breaks the law. He's a criminal." "He's all those things," Nina agreed, "but he's also the reason 3 community centers stay funded when the city won't pay for them. He's the reason certain neighborhoods don't descend into complete chaos. He's the reason people like Marcus's sister get medical care they can't afford. Victor's not a hero, Michael, but he's not a simple villain either." "That doesn't justify murder." "No, it doesn't. But here's what you need to understand. If you help the feds take down Victor, someone else will fill that power vacuum. Someone worse. Someone who doesn't care about community centers or medical bills. Someone who rules through fear instead of calculated fairness. Is that what you want?" Michael sat down heavily. "I just wanted justice for Kyle. Kyle was part of an assassination attempt. He knew what he was doing, and yes, he died for it, and that's tragic. But justice doesn't bring him back. It just creates more bodies. So I should do nothing? Just let you all keep operating? You should live, Nina said. Build something. Be something your brother couldn't be. That's real justice. That's actually honoring his memory. The task force hasn't acted on your information yet because they don't trust you enough. You're a random civilian making wild claims. But if you keep pushing, eventually they'll verify enough to move. And when they do, Victor will know it came from you, and I won't be able to save you a second time. Michael put his head in his hands. I don't know what to do. Nina pulled out an envelope, set it on the table. There's $20,000 in there, enough to start over somewhere else, somewhere far from here. You take it, you leave, and you never come back. You ghost the task force, you disappear. And if I don't, then Marcus comes for you, and he won't be as nice as I am. This is a bribe. No, Nina said. This is me giving you the same chance I gave you before, the chance to live.